Call to order the Harwich Conservation Commission, Wednesday, May 11th. First hearing is notice of intent, Richard and Janet Kaiser, 4 Springtide Lane.
Yeah, there we go.
Land management activities.
Good evening. I'm Mike Ball from Marsh Matters Environmental. I'm here representing the Kaisers, Janet and Richard. I was here with Janet Design and Nick Crawford at your last hearing. This is a bank, coastal bank restoration and invasive species management project. I think you had some questions that we had answered at the last hearing, and the only thing that we were waiting for was the natural heritage response, and we did receive that the other day. I've got a copy of it. I'm not sure if Amy had given it to you, but there was a no-take determination. I have extra copies if you want to take a quick look at it. It was just one of their standard letters regarding MISA, will not result in a prohibited take, and regarding the Wetland Protection Act, it will not affect the actual habitat, resource area habitat of the species, which they did not name. There was some question about what that was, and they, unless you specifically ask them, they just render an opinion and don't tell you what the species is. But I think that was the only matter to be resolved.
So, does he have to ask to be accepted by the board or something, or how do they handle
Well, we
this?
get a chance to ask any questions if you
Yeah.
have any questions. You have a question?
I didn't read it, how can I have a
Oh,
question?
okay. Ernie, do you have any questions?
I have none, no.
Just asked a question.
No questions? John, do you have any questions?
Not at this point, no.
Okay.
Okay, so basically he says there's no problems.
Right.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Mike, last name is Ball, B-A-L-L. B as in basket, yeah.
Any questions, John?
No.
Is there a motion?
Okay, you want to bring this into, is being received, because Amy usually has it, and she hasn't got, if she has it, she didn't give it to us.
We'll go into the record, we are, okay. Okay, we've received this Division of Fisheries and Wildlife dated May 6, saying that there's no, how they say it, there's no take for the property at 4 Springtide Lane.
Correct.
Okay,
Okay, I'll give this up here to Maria.
so
Okay.
I'll make it a motion to accept the 4 Springtide Lane.
A second.
I'll second.
Got a second? Any further discussion? If not, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Anyone opposed? No, motion carries unanimously.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you very much.
Thanks.
I've got 640, notice of intent, Ann and Coleman Wash, 3 Littlefield Pond Road, continued. Construction of a single-family dwelling with septic, driveway, pool with patio and retaining wall.
Do you need national heritage for this one either, too? Do you need a national heritage for this?
No, we already had that one. in the
You have
last
it?
year. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, they were no take.
Okay.
Yep.
Here's a larger one, it might be a good bit easier to read if anybody wants a large pen.
I'll take one. Good
Good evening, Chairman, members of the board. My name is Dan Ojala. I'm a land surveyor and civil engineer with Downcape Engineering in Yarmouthport, and helping Coleman Walsh out with the permitting on one of the lots out here on Littlefield Pond Road. That's the newish subdivision, Osprey Pond Estates, I think they call it. But anyway, off in the Belmont area up there on the west side, almost into Brewster, so tucked up in that northwest corner. This is, we had a productive meeting at our last meeting, and it was discussed some ways that perhaps we could preserve even a little bit more of the buffer, and I'm pleased to report that we were able to make some nice changes to the plan, which I think you would find very advantageous to the permitting on the property. I also have a smaller document that I'll hand out here, which because of the size of the lot, a good bit of it was cut off. And so what this does is, instead of having north to the left, it puts north up on the sheet, and you can see the entire area over here that's going to be undisturbed. So I'll just hand this out. This is at 1 inch equals 100 feet, and has some percentages of coverage that the board requested on it. So I gave out all the copies that I had on that, but as you can see, that there's a good length of property on the west side of this that is the subdividers thought wisely to put a vegetative and wildlife conservancy easement on. And so the entire 50-foot buffer on the south end of this lot is preserved in perpetuity. Of course, you would have jurisdiction and would have to come into you to do anything over there as well, but that is, as part of the covenants in the subdivision, to be preserved. So while it looks like it doesn't, well, I guess I would say that it doesn't simply show on this because of the size of the lot, but all that land down there is going to be preserved. So I think that could make the board feel a bit better about this. Also, we took the driveway from the side entrance garage, and we flipped it right up to the front, talked to Amy about that, and it was kind of an idea that she had thought of as well. So we came in with a front entrance garage, and even though the owner wasn't entirely pleased with having to look at the garage doors from the front, he did that, took the entire driveway out of the 100-foot buffer. So that's a nice improvement to the site. We also slid the pool up about 4 feet, which is the request of the board. So now you've got almost 60 to the pool, and we were able to move the work limit line up a full 2 feet, and then still give extra room to build a wall on the other side. So the closest little corner there is 53.5, and the entire area, which is on the wetland side of that wall, can be revegetated and maintained in a natural manner. We have no problem with that whatsoever. We also pulled the dry well outside of the 100 at the request of one of the members. So those were the changes. We hope that the board could find that is reasonable. Again, it's a nice big lot. You can see from the calculations I handed in that we're only disturbing about 8% of the lot. The 0 to 50, the hardscape, is only about 8% of the lot. So it's a pretty modest footprint when you look at the entire area. We've made some nice adjustments to pull it back, and your regulations, do call for mitigation plantings. If you have a disturbed 50 here, we're completely natural, and we've increased that beyond 50. And hopefully you could find that this is very approvable in the manner that we have it now, and I'd be glad to answer any questions.
Thank you. Ernie, you can lead off.
You've also changed the deck or the proposed porch then, it looks like,
We clarified that it's on sonotubes, yes.
and it shrunk,
May have a tiny bit,
repositioned it, yeah.
may have a tiny bit.
So is the pool actually set back farther than on the original plan?
I know the wall is back further, I'd have to check that.
It looks like it has been
Yeah,
a number of feet.
so the 411 plan that we had before was around 56, and now we're almost 60, yeah. So that's a full 4 feet back.
Wall,
Oh, I see 56 and went to 56.7 is, looks more,
Oh, I'm sorry, 59.7.
oh, 59, I'm sorry.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I'm dyslexic with my 6s and 9s, I
Yeah,
guess.
yeah, so almost 60, so rounding up 4
So an
feet,
extra 10 feet.
within a few inches of 4 feet, yeah.
Yeah, all right. Now, between the house and the pool, there is a drain,
they moved
Yes.
and what is that, what's the purpose of that?
Sure. It's very important when you have a pool that you don't have water from the decking sheeting into the pool. And it's also very important that you don't have water sheeting into your house.
Sure.
Because you have a wet basement. So it's just a tricky area when you've got a situation like this. Your choice would be to swale it either way or just put in a little strip drain. So it'll pitch down away from the house and away from the pool. So we chose the latter, which is to put in a little flat level strip drain there. And in that manner, that kind of tricky area between the pool and the house that's very level
And
can be
will
drained.
that direct additional water down toward the wetlands?
Absolutely not, no. That's connected into the drainage system, which goes outside of the 100 to the big 6x4 dry well that we've got
Okay,
there up in the
all right,
driveway. So
good.
that's the little D symbol that's shown there.
I
And,
see, all right.
Yeah, so that's all connected up to the other drainage system, so no. And then in the southeast corner, likewise, that little D symbol is the 4-inch Schedule 40 pipe that connects that area drain all the way up to the north area drain. So
Yeah.
everything gets drained away from the wetland.
Okay, all right, I'm fine, thank you.
Any questions? Okay. There were some conditions we talked about last time we met. I believe one of them had to do with the pool will have to have, can't be, you have to have commercial people empty the pool. Is one of the conditions. I'm trying to remember the other conditions.
That would be reasonable. We'll be very happy to live with a salt system on the pool. Again, it's not a saltwater pool, but it's a very low chlorine system. They're excellent way to go with a pool, and it's reduces the chemicals, reduces the need for a lot of backwashing, and knocks that chlorine way down. So a salt system on the pool.
Brad, this is 3 Little Field Pond Road.
Mhm.
Okay. Bob?
Yeah, okay. I'm trying to remember what the heck the other one looked like. It's been a while. It's not here. I guess I didn't bring it with me. So you moved the garage, moved the driveway, that was all good stuff that we asked for. You got a parking area there. And the wall at the pool area has moved 4 feet, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, we basically took the pool decking and everything and slid it and all the walls and everything and slid it 3.8 feet or whatever, about 4 feet straight away from the wetland. So that freed up, let us move the work limit line a full 2 feet and still have even a little bit extra room to work, and that can all be revegetated down there. Pulled all the hardscape out of there, did the front entrance garage, moved the dry well, and again, I handed in the sheet showing that we're only about 8% hardscape coverage on the, that's within your jurisdiction on the whole site. So, you know, pretty low impact we feel. We've got the no take from MISA, and a DEP number issued with no comments. Yep.
Okay, thank you.
John?
I just want to thank you for your effort. I know we will plan everything very carefully, and then all of a sudden, there's a roadblock, and you have to go back to basic square one. Thank you very much. You seem to have covered all of our concerns. It's fine. Thank you. I have no questions, so.
Brad?
Yeah, sorry for coming late, so I think I missed your description of the vegetated buffer strip. Can you just repeat what that is?
Sure. There's a small sheet handout too that you should see, a little 8.5 by 11. Yeah,
Yes, this one, John.
it describes
People have mine.
just the portion that, there is a wildlife and conservancy easement that I just wanted to highlight that covers a good deal of that 50-foot buffer, and in fact, the entire 100-foot buffer on the south wing of this lot. So say somebody wanted to put a vegetable garden or do something between the 50 and the 100 down here, they're stopped on this lot from doing that by the virtue of a Vegetation and Wildlife Conservancy easement that's on this. So that's kind of a feather in the cap of this lot, and that entire buffer down there that's north of the Channing driveway that otherwise could be utilized for something will never be utilized. And then I pointed out your regulations call for, a 50-foot undisturbed. We've been able to increase the 50. Again, it's well in excess of 50 in this area, but here it's right to 52, and then it's even another couple of feet. The very closest is 53 and a half, and in most places about 54 and a half to 55 feet for the wall away from that wetland. And again, this is an area that we can replant between the work limit line. Would be happy to work in consultation with staff to revegetate between the work limit line and the wall and have that remain natural in perpetuity. And so also what we did, we had a lot of hardscape in the outer part of the 50 to 100 here. That's all been relocated up to the front. So that increases the perviousness of your buffer significantly. It's only about 3,800 or so, about 8% of the lot is impervious now, so it's down a good bit. We clarified that the porch is on sonotubes to help protect the outer buffer. We moved the dry well from within the 50 to outside of the 50 in both areas, or especially this area here where the dry well was within the 100. So those are the changes. Again, we're focusing on maintaining just a tremendous amount of natural area on this lot, and then tightening up the work limits and tucking everything to the north to give more mitigation in terms of leaving natural vegetation specifically on this lot.
When you're talking about mitigation, you're talking about 0 to 50?
0 to 50 is 100% protected.
So that's
and then
not
we're talking
that's not
additional.
mitigation.
That's correct. And then what your regulations say is that if you have a disturbed 0 to 50, you can mitigate that. But this one has a natural 0 to 50, so you wouldn't necessarily do mitigation outside of the 50, but
Well,
we can.
I think our bylaws call for a 2-to-1 mitigation for disturbance in the 50 to 100.
No, absolutely not. There's nothing even close to that in there. You do talk about some, limiting some lawn areas, outside, and, we're happy to do that, do fescue lawns and so forth. But what your regulations talk about is when you do have a disturbed buffer, then absolutely you revegetate back. But that's always talking about the 0 to 50 and, even outside of that. But again, it's when you have a no disturbed zone. I did double check those regs. And
So I think we asked for a vegetated buffer strip last time you were here, and it seems like it's not in these plans.
no, it absolutely, there's additional 4 feet.
4 feet. I think we asked for 10.
No, you had said, again, your undisturbed buffer zone is 50 feet, and we're giving you more than what your regulations call for. We've moved it to, undisturbed completely to 52, and in excess of 55 in almost everywhere.
So I'm going to take a minute and look this up, because I think I have a disagreement.
Well, if you enforce more than a 50-foot buffer, that really should be in your regulations, because right now, your buffers calls for a 50-foot undisturbed buffer. So, if you want a 54 or a 55-foot undisturbed buffer, go ahead and, put it right in the regulations, and then everyone will know to, put the work limit line.
bylaws with them?
And again, those mitigations are prefaced by when you have a disturbed buffer. That's the preface to that whole section. Regulations define a no-disturb zone as all the area within the 50 foot of the specific resource areas protected under the Act. The Commission intends to strictly apply and enforce all requirements applicable to the no-disturb zone. And, we're 100% in compliance with that.
If I might, Brad,
It does say
we
in
talked about doing that. I mean, we've tried to get people to do it, and we have talked about putting in there, but we have not, I don't think we changed the regs to do it. But we had this discussion 2 weeks ago, or 3 weeks ago when we did.
I mean, there's language in there that says you know, in certain instances, they may also require the establishment of, you know, a specified width, but, again, they really focus on the 50-foot no disturb zone.
Talking about the Harwich bylaws, Brad?
Yeah. Yeah.
You looking at, Brad, look on page 9, section D. That might be what you're looking for. Is that it?
Okay, mitigation may be required by the commission for any alteration permitted in the buffer zone, and this is the 100-foot, to compensate for any wildlife corridor or habitat disruption.
Correct, so
So
that's.
it says it may be required.
It
So-
may, yeah,
May.
so, and it's absolutely, you know, the no disturb zone is very specifically, it says the 50. And.
Yeah, but this provision's for the 100-foot that I'm reading.
Oh, no question, and you know, you can limit lawn, it talks about limiting lawn within the, you know, 50 to 100. But again, you know, when you talk about mitigation plantings, if you look at that section, you know, it's, you know,
I guess my concern, this is all functional habitat presently, and the footprint that's gonna be changed is really substantial, and so I thought we were looking for a substantial vegetative buffer strip, and we got 4 feet. So I guess I'm not satisfied with that. We also asked for the percent change in the 50 to 100 from present,
yeah.
and I think what you gave us was total lot area.
Yeah, so the math is
Hardscape.
all there.
Yep,
if-
3935 is the change
Yeah,
in hardscape.
yeah, and so it's, you know, it's a little under 4,000. Now, of the 50 to 100, that percentage is about 22%. So, you know, only, you know, it's only 22% of your, the areas that you do allow to be disturbed, has hardscape on it. So, you know, we feel it's pretty modest. Again, Mr. Walsh and his wife are really hoping to retire to this spot, and, you know, they bought an acre-sized lot, 50,000, and, you know, they look at your regulations at 50 feet, and they're really caught off guard that you're requiring more than that.
Well, I think I'm caught off guard by just the substantial amount of development in the 5100, and when we asked for a reasonable vegetative buffer strip, you came back with 4 feet.
Well, 54.
No, from the 50 to 100, we can impose a vegetative buffer strip on the 50. And I think at the last meeting, I was looking for a 10-foot.
Well, we had I got the impression that you were talking about 4 feet would be, you
No,
know,
I-
I had mentioned 2, and you thought, well, more than that, and you said about 4.
Four to me is, you know, it's this distance here.
Well, look at, I mean, don't forget, you're focusing in on one little area. Look at all the area you've got here, where we're probably an extra 20 feet up in this area where we could be disturbing. So don't forget about that. That's a very substantial area up there that's outside of the 50, and it's all going to be conserved. And then down here, this whole area is all, you know, you've got a full 100-foot down here. So you're getting quite a bit. You know, he could be more aggressive with it and isn't being. So, you know,
I think if you're any more aggressive, we'd require mitigation. I mean, it's a tremendous amount of disruption to habitat in the 50 to 100. So, you know, I would like to see a more substantial vegetative buffer strip.
Okay. Well, again, on your request, we got rid of the side entrance garage. We pulled all of that asphalt out of the 100-foot buffer. We moved the entire pool area 4 feet to the north. We moved the dry well out of the 100 completely. And, you know, if we can carry with the board, we respectfully respect your personal opinion, but would lean to the judgment of the entire board. Hopefully, we could find that, you know, this is approvable. We'll certainly take notice that, you know, you are looking for even more, but hopefully we could move forward with this, and I'm certainly glad to answer any other questions.
So, one of the problems is you can't move the house back because you're up against a limitation on the street.
Yeah, there's a 25-foot zoning setback. We're within 2 inches of that. So we're right there. The house that he chose is wide, and so it's not particularly deep, and, Yeah, it's between the proverbial rock and a hard place. But again, I'd point to there's many areas on this site that are forever protected. We're focusing on this one side. You know, this entire, it's only 8% of the lot is hardscape between the 50 and 100, 0 between the 0 to 50, and this whole area down here, which doesn't show on the plan but does show on that side sketch, is 100% protected. So if you want to talk about a vegetative buffer, I'd really focus your attention on that. Whereas you could put a garden down there, you could, you know, a windmill, I mean, you name it, a shooting range or whatever. That is between the 50 and 100, 100% protected on that whole end of the lot. So you know, we're focusing, I'm afraid, a little bit too much in the area we have 4 to 5 foot. But look at all the other areas. We've got a full 100, a full 100 in this area. You've got a full 100, and then it does narrow in this area, but then it widens very substantially over here. So I think it's kind of a win-win, and would like to move forward. We think we've compromised substantially, and hopefully the board could find that this is approvable as presented.
Would the commission like to continue this to the next meeting when Amy is back?
Are there outstanding questions beyond?
I don't think so. I think,
I have a question of Brad, actually. Are you looking for a buffer zone across the entire back of the house and pool area, or just the pool area where it really is 5 feet from the 50-foot line?
I think my feeling was that the pool is an accessory that, you know, it came to us sitting right on that 50, and I felt I conveyed the opinion to have it pushed back and have a real vegetative buffer strip. It's within our bylaws to ask for that, and I felt that, you know, they came back with a 4 foot, which is not a very significant.
So you're concerned primarily for the pool area?
Yeah, it's you know, it's right there on the buffer strip. I think this is a borderline case where we could ask for a 2-to-1 mitigation. I think it's within our purview to ask for that.
The last hearing has it cleared right to the coastal bank, and you allowed a couple little plants and, you know, trimming. We're nowhere near this compared to what that last hearing was. I mean, I think that's a little bit punitive, and that you can let them have remain lawn right up to the coastal bank and require us to have 55 feet plus.
I can't compare that other hearing in any way. I can just compare what you have right now in the 50 to 100 is functional wildlife habitat, and I think you've got a lot of footprint coming into that area. It's within our purview to judge whether that's going to impact that habitat or not. And so we can certainly ask for a vegetative buffer strip. It's perfectly within the purview of the bylaw. And so,
Well, you're getting, think of all the
We're getting 4
buffer
feet.
Yeah, in that one little area, good grief, we've got down here, we've got, you know, 100 feet or so of 100%
yeah, but you can't
conserved.
touch the 0 to 50. You keep bringing that up, but
Well,
you can't touch
well,
the 0 to 50.
look at the diagram. From 50 to 100, we're preserving probably 100 feet of buffer on that south end of the lot. At the one inch was 100 that shows all this area down there. Everything to the north of the Channing driveway, there's an extra 50 feet of completely undisturbed there, completely undisturbed up to this work limit line. Yes, it does tuck down in this area, but then look at it flaring back out. I mean, how can you call that a 4-foot strip when it's a 50 feet strip here, 50 feet strip here, a small section, and then widening out to probably 65? It's very unfair to characterize this as a 4-foot strip. It's much more than
Well,
that.
your structure is 4 feet from the line, right? Your pool wall is 4 feet from the line.
The pool wall at its closest is 54.7 from the wetland, so it's 4.7 feet from the 50-foot buffer line,
Right,
correct?
right. So
But
I
that's
mean,
one little spot,
it-
one
it-
little spot.
It has been consistent for this board to ask for a substantial vegetative buffer strip. You know,
Well,
in
the
this case,
Eldridge
so-
lot we did was we had places where you allowed us to go right up to the 50, brand-new construction that just went down on South Road. I mean, you've got a lot of buffer strip on this site. I mean, we're really, you know,
Brad, what are you suggesting? Move the pool?
Well, I was hoping to see the pool wall move to, you know, I thought I clearly suggested 10, and I was hoping to see something in the 5 or 6 foot,
10 from the 50?
right, the pool wall to be pushed back. And I don't think we should continue this if there are no further
No,
outstanding
I don't
questions.
either, but
So
up
I
to us.
So
think-
the pool now is 9 feet 7 inches from the 50, right?
Well, the pool.
That's the pool, but
Yeah,
he's
the
talking
pool
about the
wall.
wall.
Not the retaining wall, correct, yeah. Okay.
So it's a full, almost 5 feet, 54.7 at that spot.
Since you've moved the driveway, and that's not an impediment to, between the pool and the road itself, would there be any issues with moving the pool back further toward the road?
Well, you know, for privacy concerns, the owner was really hoping not to have the pool too close to the road, and so he was hesitant to move it anymore. He wanted to move it 1 foot, and I had to lean on him to go to the almost 4 feet.
What's the distance now between the pool and the road?
I would have to scale it, but unfortunately, it's on the outside of a curve, so it's kind of the area where you're looking. It's not like you're just driving by it. But I'll
Probably
scale
35
that.
feet. If you look at the driveway's about
Yeah.
25 feet, so it's 35.
If that's 60, yeah, it's probably 50-something, and then, you know, off the pavement, maybe 60, but, you know, it's definitely not behind the house where you'd love it.
We're only talking about a 5-foot push, right?
So we've moved it, yeah, about 4 feet. But, you know, it's just, you know, the owner looked at the regulations, he saw the 50, and he was, you know, just asking me, you know, why do they want more than 50? And I says, well, you know, they'd like a little bit more, and so we gave it the almost 4 feet, and we're hoping that that would be enough between getting all the driveway and you know, the front entrance garage and the dry well, that would carry the day.
Brad, would you like to make a motion?
No, I certainly don't want to hold this one up. I just think, you know, I think it's been consistent for this board to look for this vegetated buffer strip when it's a structure that is not a house that is like pinned in by, you know, setbacks. This is a case where you've got a pool, which is an accessory, and it came into us right on the line, and so we asked to move it back. I would rather see a more substantial vegetated buffer strip. And I think if you came in with a 6-foot, you know, it would, at some point, we're splitting hairs, you know, but I don't think I would be that concerned. You know, to me, it was a lot of development in that 50 to 100 of very functional wildlife habitat. And so it is within purview of this board to ask for things like this. And so that's why I was hoping for something, you know, a little more substantial.
Excellent questions.
Okay, Bob,
Okay.
a question?
To clarify, the people before, all they were doing is they weren't building, they were taking out invasive plants and replanting with native plants.
Yeah, but there was a vista view component. I mean, you know, there's no question that they're, you know, trimming and, you know, keeping
But
open views.
They already had 2 vistas before.
Yeah, and the lawn was but right down to the coastal bank, you know.
That's
and,
not what we were talking about, the lawn.
well,
That
you
was
could,
all
I
done
mean, it's
before.
within your purview, though. I mean, it says right here that you can require them to put in 2-to-1 mitigation if there's disturbances of the 50.
But
Here
the
we've got
last thing they came in, they weren't talking lawn, they were only talking about the hill
Right,
and
right.
vegetation. So
But
that's
it's-
what it's not the same, I'm talking, okay?
Yeah, and every case is unique and special, I realize that, but, I
So
mean,
my other question is, if you move the pool back, you've got the wall coming with a jog, where are we, how far are we from that jog? I mean, what would happen there? I'm trying to figure out what you would have to do with that wall if you moved the whole thing back.
yeah, well, you know, there's no question this physically could be moved back a little bit more. It's just the owner was really hopeful to leave it where it is now. You know, he really wanted it, you know, tighter, so they'd have, you know, views from, maybe he's gonna do a barbecue over here and see the pool. Now it's moving up out of sight of his back, you know, so, you know, it physically could be moved, but he was really hoping not to. You know, he said to me, what, am I gonna come out of the back of my house, you know, go like this, you know? I'm like, well, you know, we're doing the best we can here. And so, this is where we landed it, you know, we're hoping that that would be enough, and, you know, and especially in light of all the, you know, basically the full 100 or the extra 50, however you want to phrase it, it's a full 50 in this whole section down here, and this section, you know, up to the work limit line is the full 50. Yes, it reduces in this area, but then it expands again very substantially on the west side or the north side.
John, you had a question?
Yeah, I just have a question. You mentioned that the owner has a concern about privacy. Yeah, people coming down the road.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
curved, and then you can see into, poolside.
Yeah, just, you know,
My question, because I can't tell from here, is there any proposed fence or living hedge or something that blocks the view now? Even if you left the pool at this point, does he intend to put something? And I appreciate the privacy concern, but is there going to be anything on that side?
He may well, you know, we have the pool fence in this area
Uh-huh.
and so forth, but he may do some screening outside of your jurisdiction or come back for a little bit more inside, but, you know, that is something he could do.
So that's, if he's going to do that, for privacy, understandably,
Yeah.
If it were to be left here, wouldn't the whole thing be moved back? So I don't know, what is it, 5 feet or something? Including the fence or whatever he had proposed? I mean, that shouldn't impact on the issue of privacy.
Yeah.
If he's going to do it now, couldn't he do it for 5 feet distance?
Well, again, you know, I think, you know, without speaking with him directly, and he does apologize, he was way off Cape and couldn't make the meeting, but I think it does have some to do with his ability to go back and forth between the porch and the pool and have some interaction of flow in this area. Removing the pool from that area, there's going to be a big disconnect between his backyard and the pool, and, you know, I think he'd just love to be able to come out of the back and catch the view rather than have it be hidden behind the garage and just not anywhere near his living space is all over here, you know. And again, I just remind the board, you've got the full 50 in this area, as much as we can give you, and then the full 50 all down there, this big chunk up there. It's a very, you know, very substantial amount of give back that we're not disturbing on the site.
I've got to correct you, you keep saying that, but the 0 to 50 is not a give back.
I'm only speaking, sir, of from 50 to 100.
Okay.
You got the full 50 here, you got about, you know, 25 to 30 in that area, and the full 50 outside of the 50. So you corrected me, and I'm speaking only in corrected manner. We're talking about outside of the 50 now. The full amount here, close to the full amount there, and the absolute full amount outside of the 50, all the way to the 100, and a big arc that's down on that other sheet that I showed you. So that's a very substantial, and every site is unique and different, but I think this one, that should carry on this one. That's a lot of area that's protected.
Is there a motion?
You want to make a motion, or?
Would it be, I mean, if the board is split on it and the compromise was to 6 and we've gone 4, then why don't you approve it with an additional 2 feet? And then you've got basically your 6, 5.7.
And what would you do with that corner of that wall? Because that's only 3 feet, 5 inches.
This one right here?
Yeah.
That one I think would have to stay, but again, you've got it this whole way. I mean, we can't, well, we could 45 that. Why don't we do that? We could 45 that. So in this manner here. So that'll you know, we'll be able to get around that.
I think that's about what I was hoping to see, because
Okay.
the 4 was put on the table last time. I discussed a 10. We haven't had many 10-foot buffer strips, but we've had very few at 4. So I think if it could go to 6, that's a reasonable compromise.
Okay.
As little as it is, and I hate to belabor that, but I think I was hoping for something like that.
Okay. Any more comments? I'll make a motion.
Subject to a revised plan with an additional 2 foot of
Yeah,
pool
I like
wall
And
movement.
45 on the angle.
Well, let me make the motions, and then you can correct it after
Before you
that.
make the motion, can
Okay.
I ask, Brad, are you comfortable without the mitigation in the buffer zone?
That's what we
Well,
get.
we'll go ahead and replant that.
Oh, with that,
The vegetation?
the mitigation I discussed earlier?
Mhm.
Yeah, I think our regs, I am mistaken that it's not a 2-to-1 shall require. It's actually the board may impose mitigation for new construction of wildlife and habitat corridors. So that would be our discretion to have mitigation for the footprint in the 50 to 100. I think a better solution is to have a substantial vegetative buffer strip sitting on that 50. So that's why I was seeking that. So I think that's reasonable.
Okay, I'm gonna, come on, where the hell are we? What is this? This is 3 Little, make a motion, we accept 3 Littlefield Pond Road with the following, oops, sorry, with the following stipulations. We'll have a 6-foot at the pool area, a wall will be moved, and we'll have a 6-foot buffer zone, which will be vegetated with a plan to be given to the Conservation Commission, and you people will work that out.
Perfect.
We'll 45 that corner to get it away from there. There'll be, in our orders and conditions, it'll be that you can't dump your pool. That's what we do for everybody. Did I miss anything else?
That's all I can remember.
That's why we have to do it fast, because we can't remember. Anybody okay with that? That's my motion.
Seems to have covered it.
Second that.
Ernie, seconded. Any questions about the motion? All in favor of the motion indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? No. Motion carries unanimously.
Great, thank you very much for your time and
Thank you.
consideration.
Thank you.
Notice of intent. Eileen Weaver, 23 Quasit Road. Grading and mitigation for garden and swing set access in a buffer zone.
Jump one,
Jump one, I'm sorry.
12 mil.
As long as you can jump back.
Too late, you have to come back in 2 weeks, though.
You're on Mill Road?
Yes.
Okay. Peter and Valerie McNeely, 12 Mill Road. After the fact filing for invasive plant removal and replanting vegetation management to maintain a vista.
I would ask, the commission did receive a letter, but I don't think everybody got it. It was in the form of an email from Amy to Jennifer. Maybe, Walter, could you read that into the record, possibly? Someone has the copy. I brought the copy, and I
Yeah,
the only
you-
copy.
Okay, this is dated May 10th. I met with Don Moreau of Coastal Engineering at the property last week. At this time, it was evident that the sweet pepper bush and low bush blueberry are coming back, as well as in all in the invasives. There is a round area in the center of the view where the cutting was done. There was mostly oaks and some poplar. These are not coming back. This is all being said. Here are my recommendations. This is remove the dead stumps of oak and poplar in the circular section as they are not growing. Replant this area with sweet pepper bush and low bush blueberry at 5 to 6 feet on center. Reprune anything good that is still living in the area to promote proper growth. Remove all invasives this summer and fall. The poplar will require being cut and wiped with a herbicide by a licensed applicator, no
This is the
aerial
thing they
spraying.
We should have
This
this
is
on the
more
desk.
effective in late summer, early fall, as the plants are starting to store food for the winter and will take in the herbicide better than in the spring. Replanting the area where invasives work can be done in the late spring of next year once we get at least an 80% eradication rate of the invasive plants. Plants should be the same as above with the inclusion of maybe some arrowwood viburnum and a few red cedar trees along the fringes. Plants should be installed 5 feet on center. It doesn't make sense to replant sooner, as the invasives could just take back over. For the next 3 years, the invasives that do resprout will need to be cut and wiped again to prevent them from taking back over. Monitoring report with pictures will be sent by November 1st this year and May 1st next year. After that, it will be wise to get a report next fall and the spring after.
Thanks, Walter.
Give this to Murray, please.
So I've met with Amy twice on the site. I also met with the licensed person that will do the application and the cutting and painting twice on the site. Unfortunately, Amy wasn't feeling well. I hope she's feeling better. To be able to meet with the licensed contractor that we actually had the owner hire to do this work because we're very familiar with his particular work. Larry Rooney is his name, from Rooney Landscaping. I have certificates of his insurance, his license here, and also the contract between the owner and him to do that portion of the work that Amy had suggested in her letter. That area that she was talking about is painted with white marks around the perimeter of it, which is this middle area here, which is the area she wants us to concentrate on removing the poplar and the scrub oak in two phases. One would be to cut and paint everything and that's poplar or invasive, specifically in this area. But while Larry's there, he's going to invasively treat all the invasive plants that are in the shaded areas. So he's going to be there for a while to make sure that any invasive bittersweet that's up in here and some of the other plants that are invasives don't get back into this location here. So also the scrub oak that's along the face here, which is close to the path, that's where she's indicated to me on the site that she wants it flush cut because she doesn't want the roots taken out or disturbed until the Weechmere Pine Association project goes in, which is going in the fall, so that there won't be any disruption to the coastal bank in that area. Later on, we may, after that gets reconstructed, we may come back in and take those scrub oak out and replace with plants at the suggested rate that she has in her letter, which is in a table here, and the species are in this table here. I talked to Larry at great length this last Tuesday on the site. He said that he has to wait at least 2 weeks from the date I met with him before he could make the first application, even though Amy said that the application should take place in the fall. She also said, though, that if the licensed applicator has a different approach, then she would certainly want to go with the best approach. So his approach would be to cut and paint everything in this area that needs to be cut and painted, cut and paint everything that's invasive in the gray areas within the next, not within, but outside 2 weeks from now. Even though Amy's right that some of the material won't get down into the roots, we're going to do a second application in the fall and then a third application next spring. And then at that point, we'll be doing the planting in this area. So the idea would be to cut and paint what we can here, then actually take out all the poplar 21 days after he does the application. Then let it sit all summer with no disturbance. Then Larry will come back in the fall, evaluate if any roots have taken hold after the removal, and then retreat it so that over the fall and the winter, it'll do its most damage to the the remaining root systems. And then that would make it nice and clean and ready to be planted in the spring. I talked to Amy about planting in here and planting in here, in and around the existing sweet pepper bush and blueberry. She said that she didn't have a problem with us planting in those areas, but that she suggested that you wait till after the application takes effect. I think that we could still do the planting of the cedars up in this area, and if you'll notice, we call this area plant area 1. Plant area 1 is the area where we want to plant the eastern red cedar, which is, I don't know how many we're going to put in, but we put in, I'd say 3 or 4 substantially, 5 to 6 foot eastern red cedar in this location. The owner wants to plant as soon as he can, obviously, but at the same time, he understands he can't plant when the invasive species have been treated. So he's fine with everything that's been presented. He's hired the people that we've suggested that he hire. And short of that, if there's any questions, now's the time.
Ernie, do you have any questions?
No, I don't.
Go ahead.
I just have a quick question, looking at the assessor's map. Is the owner Mr. McNeely or Mr. Green?
Mr. McNeely. Where's Green? Oops. That might be an attorney, because it says "and care of McNeely," so he may get mail through this particular person because he has two other places he lives at, one in Florida, one in New Hampshire. But Mr. McNeely owns the property. He's the person that Amy met and had the altercation with, and we've
Yes,
tried to resolve.
yes, I know.
So yes, he's the owner.
He's the owner,
But because the assessors,
not an attorney.
well, because the assessors lists it this way, we have to show it that way, but the owner is Mr. McNeely,
What does the NF mean there?
now formally. I can't straighten it out as far as assessors go, because that's how they list it, so we're obligated to show it that way. But the deed of record is Mr. McNeely. He's the owner of the property. He may have mail sent through this person, care of, I suppose, and that's the way he listed it with the assessors, but.
Any questions? Bob,
No questions.
John,
No.
Brad? Do we have a motion to proceed with this plan?
And make a mo- oops.
Oops, sorry. I did want to make one more statement, sorry, Walter, that Larry Rooney has expressed a great desire to meet with Amy and be under somewhat her guidance through the whole project. The reason I've encouraged Mr. McNeely to hire him is that we've used him in the Situate and Marshfield area, and he is always in contact with the two agents there, any work that he does. So I just wanted to make sure that you knew that
Thank you.
he has a desire on his end, so that's the way I'd like to work too.
Yeah, thank you.
Has he spoken with Amy about that?
No, all contact so far has been through me to him, but the information back was that he definitely wants to have an on-site with her before any work, he starts any work, which was supposed to be this Tuesday. But because Amy wasn't feeling well, and Amy expressed a desire last meeting I had with her last Wednesday,
Yeah.
that she could meet with him this Monday or Tuesday, but she didn't know she was gonna fall ill. So we'll make sure a meeting happens, and there'll probably be two. There'll probably be a meeting before we do any kind of work at all, then there'll be a pre-construction meeting,
Thank you.
okay?
Do we have a motion to proceed?
I'd make a motion to proceed on 12 Mill Road.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, got a second, 2 seconds. Okay, any other discussion before we vote? All in favor of proceeding indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? No, motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, we can't wait to
I
get
have
going.
one question, Don, before we go.
Thank
Does
you.
anybody, how long does it take before she, okay is sent to Don from this meeting? Do you know that, Marie?
I'm sorry.
How long before he will get the okay, official okay to move on? Do you know, ballpark?
Yeah, right. So the order of conditions still has to be written and
Right,
issued.
that was
So, that works well with what Larry has said, that he can't do anything right now anyway, because it's the wrong time of the season. So if it's 2 to 3 weeks where we get the order of conditions, that works into our schedule.
Okay, I just wanted
thank
to
you.
make sure that it wasn't
Yeah.
gonna overlap.
And I'll be in touch with Amy when she gets back to see, so.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Notice of intent, Alfred and Eileen Weaver, 23 Wacquasit Road, grading and mitigation for garden and swing set areas in a buffer zone.
Sure.
There's an easel over here, Mark, if you want to use that.
Oh, I can do that, or just put it here, like, everybody else is doing that, so it's up to you guys, I guess. Look at this one, not down here yet. Up here. So did everybody receive the letter? Well, for the record, I'm Mark Burgess with Shorefront Consulting, and property owner, Mr. Al Weaver, is joining us tonight. Okay. Is that better? Perfect. Okay. Okay, so did everybody receive the revised plan and the letter that outlines what we did for the revisions?
Stated April 26, I think.
Correct. So when we left here before, the commission was still concerned about amounts of disturbance, maybe beyond the area that was previously disturbed. They were concerned about the garden and the swing set. So this, as I explained to you, the focus of the project was to try to make the backyard more level, maybe not exactly level, but certainly more level and safer for Mr. Weaver's grandkids to run around the backyard. The garden and the swing set were not afterthoughts, but something minor that he would also have liked to have. So those are out. They're pulled out of the project, again, to truly focus on what he really needs to do for the backyard. All of the grading has been pulled back to within previously disturbed areas. So you have the lawn, which you see on the plan, and then that will be the graded slope now, and between the lawn and the actual natural portion of the lot, if you will, is a mulched buffer bed of various things in various places of plants. The proposal stands to replant that. The only thing I changed in the note was we had to take out the high tide bush because now that slope is too high in elevation for a high tide bush. But the other three varieties can remain and be planted in a density in that buffer. The quantity of fill has been reduced to all of 30 yards now. I think eventually, we were at over 100 before. Now we're at 30 yards. Mr. Weaver is still proposing to do mitigation in the form of the devining of the trees, removing of the invasives, and elevating the walkway. So I know it was pretty close before, so we're hoping that this is enough to get a positive recommendation from the board. So with that, I'll answer questions.
Ernie?
No, if I recall, the last time our only concern was the amount of fill that was being proposed, and this seems to reduce that considerably.
Mm-hmm.
I'm fine with this. I'm comfortable. Thank you.
I have a question on the
Yep.
sprinkler system. You said the sprinkler system is going to be extended in height of the, what do you call
The risers.
okay, the risers.
Yeah.
Is that, and the sprinkler system would still be in effect covering only the area that it currently covers?
Correct. It won't be expanded. It won't be changed in any way. It'll do what it's been doing. And you can see it. This isn't a manicured lawn out there. It's used to a minimum amount to keep things alive, and in some cases, not alive. So it's a minimum usage.
That's my only hesitation. Otherwise, I really appreciate your patience and the way the system works. We had to extend it this long to get the information we needed. That is still pouring fresh water into a sensitive area. That's my only question on that.
How
But
long is, I'm
But no,
sorry.
go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. How long has the sprinkler system been in?
The house was built in, I want to say about 24 years.
And it was original to the house?
Oh, yes, yes, yeah.
So it's pre-existing anyway. It's before we had
Before we,
stuff, and it's
Yeah.
not changing.
it doesn't change when you alter bill?
I don't think so.
That's not a substantial
Well,
change. Okay.
question?
You
I'm
set?
finished, thanks.
Okay. We're down to 30 yards, and I'm sorry, is it this kind of red dotted area? Is that what where you're gonna put it?
The shaded, this lightly shaded area here?
Stuff with the red
Yeah,
dots?
If it's red, yeah. Yep.
Okay.
And then the green is where the graded slope is.
Where it is now?
Yes. It'll be a little steeper because it's flat in some places, but It'll be in the same place it is now. It won't go beyond any area that's been previously disturbed.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Don?
No, I think it's a lot of improvement here, but I have no questions, no.
Brad?
Thank you.
No, I think your answer to Bob's question solved my question as well. It's, the slope is really, you've maintained the slope where it is presently.
Yeah, in some places it's like this, so it might be like that, that's all.
Okay?
Correct.
No further questions.
Thank you.
Do we have a motion?
I make a motion to, which one are we on here? Accept the 23 Lacrosse Road.
Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Seconded by John. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? No. Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Riveting, huh?
No, I appreciate what you do. I
Thank you for
really do.
asking your question.
No worries.
We're trying to protect all of us.
If you want to hang around for something really interesting, this
I
one will
think
be.
I am. This is good.
Oh, wait, we hear the next one.
You guys do a great job. Thank you.
Okay. Christine Freeman, 19 Nons Road. Construct a path with an all-grade walkway, steps, pier, ramp, and float extending into the water 57 feet from the mean high water.
Okay, I'm going to go through a progression to.
Oh, same person.
Yes, it's me again. Mark Burgess with Shorefront Consulting, representing the Freemans. And you all know Pamela Newbert. She was supposed to be here, but her husband had to travel out of town and on very short notice, so she has to be with her kid, her daughter, and can't make it. She did provide the shellfish report, so I'll go through that one as the time comes here. Let me get my notes in front of me. And for procedure, these guys for you. So there's a lot of information in this filing. In these cases, we always try to be very thorough, and I realize that in some cases it can be like cramming for an exam when you look at all of the information that's in here. So where we started was a site where the applicant wants access to the water, and he would like to be able to launch kayaks, and someday perhaps he wants a boat. So we end up with a dock, of course. But that wasn't the biggest conundrum. The biggest conundrum was how to get from the house to the water. So we initially, we came before you as a discussion. So the conundrum here is that the I would say, normal way or the approvable way is an elevated walkway. The site beckons. It's the definition of what you use an elevated walkway for, to go from an upland area over a wetland area to another more upland area. Classic definition of the use of an elevated walkway. But it's a structure. It would have to be 200 feet long, and it's kind of substantial. So if there's a different way to accomplish the same goal. So the applicant looked at the existing path that goes over the sand dune for the association. He's like, well, why can't we do that? And I said, well, I don't know. Let's see. So we posed it to the board. The board suggested to us that the better way to accomplish the goal was a path through the most upland areas that we can find from his house to the water. That path is staked out there. How many people have been to the site, either before or now, or?
We were all there.
Yeah, okay. So the upland path starts by the flagpole He'd like like a landscaped area around the flagpole. And then as you proceed, you stay up in an upland area, not a wetland per se, but it's still land subject to coastal storm flowage, which is still a resource area. So you are proceeding along this upland area, and then you see a little seep on the left-hand side, which is, looks like salt marsh, but there's no flushing. It comes from underground. On the right-hand side, there's another section of salt marsh, but that is flushed at high tide from the southern outlet by the end of the rocks on the neighbor's property. So that one is more clear that it's fed directly by high tide. So we go in between those, and then we had a choice. This is where the path had to go to where the dock was located in the best location. So we went before Waterways, and you have their recommendation. I have a signed copy of the plan from them, and it's the same revision that you're looking at, revision number 3. So when we get to the dock, we're like, well, where can we put this? So we had a choice of 2 different locations. This was the initial path, if you will, of the project, the elevated walkway coming to here, and that's why we did the shellfish survey here. As Amy and I took a look back, you know, there's been a lot of work done to this point. So as Amy and I took a step back and said, okay, maybe this is a better way, we pursued this avenue. So it's just in the shellfish area, but there was only 7 shellfish found in this area. So I think it's reasonable to assume that if you move over a little bit, you're going to find the same density, okay? And whether there's 5 shellfish or 500, we still design for that potential impact or reducing. We design to reduce or eliminate that impact, whether there's 5 or 500. So that's how we got to where we are. So this is where we are. Now, I can go through all your bylaws. The narrative does that. If you've had a chance to read the narrative, that's very important because it's detailed. It goes through everything line item by line item. The key to the design here is that the pilings span, this piling is not in the marsh. It's landward of the marsh. This piling is right at the edge of the marsh, and the other one is below mean low water. So technically, there's like no piles on the beach per se, and there's no piles in the marsh either. It spans both of those areas. It's high enough so you can walk underneath it, so there's no impact to lateral public access. If there were shellfish here and if people wanted to go get them, there's no public access to this point, but if they wanted to, they could. We're not impeding that in any way. The standard design of the permanent piles with removable decking is incorporated. You guys are all familiar with that. And then you have a seasonal ramp and float. This is held in place with pipe piles, so the pipe piles come out. I mean, if you suggested permanent piles, that would be okay, but I think in this case where it's located, it's probably better to pull everything out every year. The edge of the float is located it's located just at the definition of your deep water channel, which is -3 feet at low water. That's this line right here. So that's the other thing. There's a lot of lines on this plan, but there's reasons for them. So it's located right through that line. We have 3.4 feet at the seaward edge of the float, and 2.5 feet at the landward edge. Now that's key. We can bring the float in, if you suggest. We can bring the float in. The Waterways and John Rendon ran up and down with their boat and looked at this. Hines has looked at this extensively, and I'll get to his letter in a minute. But for location of the float, we're right in the kind of the crotch of the turn. When people come around the corner, they're going to be headed over here. They're not going to necessarily head into here. They're going to head out this way. This is the channel mapped in from another consultant's plans, and that's just overlaid in the best way that I can fit it, like all of these features are. You know, we take the aerial, and I line up and scale the aerial to the house. The house we know because we surveyed it. So everything is scaled and rotated in its best fit. The problem is not everybody uses the same orientation when they do these things. So I have to do my best to fit everything in. I'm not going to say that this is a surveyed location. I can't say that, but it's a very reasonably accurate representation of what would be out there if somebody was to map that channel. This is the historic dredge footprint. So initially, my point here was that, well, if this is dredged, then that's a good reason why there's no shellfish here, because they get sucked up every time they're
Which
dredged.
is the dredge line on?
Yeah, it looked like you were pointing.
This red
which
line
dredge?
here,
The dredge line,
there's no dredging for the project, but historically,
historically.
Yeah, from
every
the other-
year.
from the other consultants' plans, historically, the dredge line is this heavier red line here. I don't know whether they did that, or maybe that silted in, who knows, but it's a reasonable representation of what's there. Nowadays, I don't think you could dredge that close, because you're not allowed to dredge that close to a marsh. So historically, that might have been what they've done. I don't think they can do that anymore. Let's see. I had a zoomed out version. Oh, yeah. So just as a better lay of the land, this is zoomed out a little bit so you can get a little better idea of how this is laid in and how it fits and just how it's represented, okay? So this represents the channel, the 50-foot wide channel. We're not in that, and that was important to John. By your definition, we're within the deep water channel, but your regulations say that we can't extend more than like 50 feet into the deep water channel or reduce it by 50 feet, and we certainly don't do that. So the depth. The reason I specifically wanted to cite this float, and we made it narrower because of this, the applicant wanted a 10 by 20 float, and I said, I don't recommend that, because we want 2.5 feet on all sides of the float. The reason for that is that I've said this before, the small dock and pier guidelines. They're guidelines, but I can tell you that DEP uses them as regulations. And what they've done is in an area that could be significant to shellfish, they want 2.5 feet of freeboard under the float. So we designed this so that there's 2.5 feet around the entire float. If there isn't that 2.5 feet, then you would need float stops, and that's problematic because this is a steep slope, and if the tide goes down at all, then the float's like this. So that was why it's cited where it is. Like I said, we could move it back, but I don't think it's a good idea.
Quick question, Mark.
Yeah.
Isn't the 2.5 feet an actual regulation? It's not a recommendation, it's a regulation.
I don't think it's in the DEP regulations.
I think it's in our bylaws.
Well, yes, but that's at the end of the seaward end of the float. We've got it at the landward end.
I think it's any point.
It's the seaward end, because we've approved projects with it just at the seaward end before.
Yeah,
I'm sure.
I can check. That's something I'll check because
Okay, I'm sure it's the seaward, measured at the seaward end, because the float itself, okay, so the dock and pier guideline says under all circumstances, they want 18 inches under the float. But in an area that could contain shellfish or that could be deemed significant to shellfish, they want 2.5. So we're meeting that in spades. We've got it around the whole float.
Yeah. Sure.
I know.
Carry on, I'm just gonna look.
Okay, all right. I mean, I've been doing docks for 15 years, I know, and we did them in here, and I know that we had 2.5 feet only at the landward, at the seaward end, and not that much in the landward end.
I just want to be sure if it's a recommendation or a requirement. So please
Yes.
carry on. I'll just look it up quickly, but
Okay.
go for it.
For me, as a designer, if it's in the dock and pier guidelines, to me, it's a requirement. That's the way I treat it. It may be, like I said, DEP has been known to do it that way, but technically it's a guideline, but I treat it as my Bible for designing so that we can be as, economically friendly as possible. So, I guess I'll just keep talking about the dock for now. So the dock has plenty of elevation, like I said, the narrative goes through all of that. There is a variance included in the application, and I know Brad cringes on variances, and I get that, and I'm sure we'll have some great discussion about it. I was very careful in how I wrote the variance. And there's a lot of key points in it. Has everybody been able to read that?
No, I'm afraid not.
Uh-oh. Okay, well, I might read it then. And we did get a DEP file number, you know that. And,
Just to interrupt quickly, yeah,
Yeah.
it's 2.5 feet for any point of the structure at mean low water.
any portion,
Yes.
When did they write it that way?
Well, it's been that way since I've been here, so that's our bylaw. You wanna see it?
I didn't think it was that way. I stand corrected, but we're good, so it's okay. We got a letter from Division Marine Fisheries, and normally they are they're always very critical of projects. So if you read the letter, you'll note that they had no comments. So I have to tell you that if Division Marine Fisheries and all these dock projects that I do, which is 80% of my work, they're always talking about shellfish, they're always talking about grading or reducing light over a marsh, any of these little things that you can do to improve it. And in this case, we've got nothing, which I think is a real hat in our hand for a good design, that they actually have no potential comments to make this better. There's a letter from Heinz Proft in the file. If you want me to read it, I'll read it, if you guys haven't seen it. And I really, like I said, there's a lot of information here, so I'll just read it. This is April 22nd. It said, "Dear Harwich Commission, I've been asked to comment on a proposed ramp and float project for 19 Nons Road in Allen Harbor. At the regular scheduled Waterways meeting, the project for 19 Nons Road was presented to the Waterways Committee. I was at the meeting and have also visited the site. This dock is sited in the Massachusetts Division of Marine Fisheries Conditionally Approved Shellfish Area, SC-39. This project is also sited with an area designated for shellfish as shown on the sketches provided to the Conservation Commission for the Allen Harbor area. I've also reviewed the shellfish survey and project plans provided by the applicant at the meeting. The plan indicates that piles for the dock span both marsh and the beach, leaving the area accessible for shellfishing. Allen Harbor SC-39 is a conditionally approved shellfishing area and is open from November 1st through April 1st. The ramp and float are, April 30th, I'm sorry. The ramp and float are also seasonal, leaving the area accessible for shellfishing in the off-season. This specific location is not an area that is seeded with shellfish by the Natural Resources Department, and there is no public foot access to the site. The shellfish detected in the survey were most likely the result of natural settlement. If the commission requires shellfish mitigation to enhance this area, then it could be seeded in a 3-year sequence, similar to other recent dock requirements. As an alternative, an equivalent amount of funds could be provided to the town to enhance the public shellfishing effort, which would provide a public benefit for shellfishing in chosen areas which may better serve the public. In summary, the project cited in this area as designed presents no significant impact to the shellfish in this area. If you have any further questions or concerns, please contact me. Thank you, Heinz Proft, Natural Resources Director. So in the, I guess I'll flip this back over. Now, where was I? Okay. I'm going to skip the narrative. So the variance request that goes with this is for a structure within town designated shellfish area. That is one of your regulations. According to Heinz's sketches, this is in that area. The other docks to the south are just outside of that area, and there was a new one sited down here, just last year, I think.
A new
Dock.
or a replacement of an old dock?
Sorry?
A new dock or a replacement of an old dock?
A new one.
New one, that was a new one.
Yep, about, there's 3 here, and it's down about here. Well, that's shown in the zoomed out version. No. The zoomed out version starts here but goes up here more. So I don't know if I want to read the whole thing. Should I? If you guys haven't read it, it's important.
Wait till there are questions, we'll see.
I'm sorry?
Wait till we have questions, we'll see.
Okay. One of the points that the variance does point out in this third paragraph is that in Allen Harbor as a whole, the area north of the point, still not shown entirely, but Allen Harbor comes up, and it's up in here somewhere. There's a point up here that encompasses the Allen Harbor Marina, and then across the way to the yacht club, and that is not a designated shellfish area. Everywhere else in Allen Harbor is a designated shellfish area. And from what Heinz said, when he designated these areas, he's just saying that these are areas that shellfish could grow. They're not necessarily areas that are seeded by the town. They're areas known where shellfish may exist, if you will. And in doing that, what I did was I looked at the aerials. I looked at a summer aerial of all the docks because they're seasonal, and I counted 37 parcels are in the designated areas for shellfish. Out of that 37 parcels, 24 of them have docks. And without, I don't know whether when they were permitted and all of that, but the point is that out of 37 parcels, 64.8% of them have docks, and everybody seems to be getting along. It's important to note that this area is only open for shellfish when the rampant float isn't there, so there's no impact to it that way. And as I said previously, the dock is designed specifically using all the guidelines and regulations that we have available to us to eliminate impacts to shellfish. So that's the crux of the variance request. I know that I can tell you that shellfish are after a fashion, shellfish are usually more plentiful around a dock, and I always have a hard time having you guys believe that, but it is true. My preference or my belief is that the little eddies that are caused by the pilings, the shellfish like that calmer water, the spat or whatever, and they latch onto it and they hang out. And when we were using pressure-treated piles, I had a commissioner once say, "Well, would you eat those shellfish?" And well, my response was that I don't have a license to get them. But nowadays we're using non-pressure-treated materials and stuff, so I would definitely eat them.
The pilings are not pressure-treated?
In here, are they? Aren't they?
I don't know.
No, it said there was green heart.
Yeah, they're green heart. Yep, they're not. It's a rainforest wood, but there's no pressure treatment.
So
It's
which
like,
one's better?
I know, you pick your battles, right? But there's no pressure treatment. It's a natural rot-resistant wood, similar to mahogany. Not as beautiful as mahogany, but that hard. It takes a special drill to get through it and everything. So the bugs don't like it. It's not tender enough, I guess. I pointed out here that the proposed height for the pier is 6 feet from the deck to the substrate, where 5 feet to the underlying structural member is required by Chapter 91, with a proposed width of 3.5 feet. So the height to width ratio is 1.7 to 1, or 70% greater than the 1-to-1 ratio suggested in the small dock and pier guidelines. And it says, since the presence of shellfish are indicated, the float's required to have 2.5 feet, and of course we have that with 3.4 feet on the seaward side. All decking will have 3/4 inch spacing. The materials for the piles is non-pressure treated green heart wood, and there are no piles in the marsh and no piles in the beach. It's a 20-foot span, so there's only 6 pilings total. Everything else is seasonal, and the dock meets all of the requirements from DEP at the DEP level, and it meets all of your bylaws with the one exception. Okay, so if you want, I'll take questions about the dock and we'll move on to the walkway, or do you want me to just finish?
Go ahead and finish.
Okay. So the path here, what the applicant wants is to be able to walk unhindered by bugs and ticks and stinging things and getting prickers in his feet and things like that. He wants to be able to walk barefoot from the property to the dock or the waterfront and without getting injured, and he wants to be able to roll a kayak behind him. A kayak with, like on one of those cradles, you've seen those, the little wheels that are about this wide? That's what he wants to be able to do. If he does it we can just do a path. There's nothing that prevents the applicant, of course, from just walking over his property wherever he wants to go and make a path, but we don't really want to do it that way, So he could follow this path and eventually wear it down, and it would destroy the vegetation, and eventually it could become just a sandy path. But that, and yeah, we can do that, but he wants to be able to have something a little bit more stable to walk on, and he wants to be able to do it barefoot, so that's why he looks over there at the association access. There's a picture of it in the filing.
We need to look at it.
And he's like, well, this is great. This is what I want. And I'm like, well, that's over a dune. So if it's over a dune, why can't we put it in a buffer zone or a resource area that's not a dune, Then we got into the conundrum of, well, this area, obviously this is resource area here. We get that. But this becomes water dependent to the dock because there's no reason to have this if you can't have this, unless you just launch the kayaks and walk through the marsh. Which is still a bad idea, right? We don't want to do it that way either. So this is an area of upland. I actually had Lynn Hamlin go out there, and she did some probing and things like that, and she flagged it. I don't know if you saw it, but the flags are out there. She didn't do the whole analysis thing because it's obvious. To me, the whole area is considered resource area because it's land subject. The whole area to me is a delicate area. This is not wetland per se because of the soils, and she marked the edge of if I draw my finger right around here, and then right around the edge of this line here where the vegetation changes, that's pretty close to where she put her flags. And so that's where she would call a BVW, if you will. So this variance, if we need it, is for if you consider it a structure, then it's for a structure within the 0 to 50. If you consider it a buffer zone, so it's like first we got to decide what this area is, and then decide how to consider it beyond that. So remember that what the goal of the project is to get from here to here safely and stably, and obviously not damage anything. A path which is fully allowable obviously destroys the vegetation. We thought about you could do mitigation on site, but everywhere here is vegetated. So we talked about at the discussion, if the planets were aligned and it worked out beautifully, the applicant he could donate whatever the vegetation is under this path, he would donate that to another project, happily, no problem. Now, the walkway is only made up of little 1x3 slats. It just rests on the ground. It doesn't have to be anchored. And there's some slats with 3/4 inch spacing, if you will, across. You have a little detail down here for it. It doesn't really get any simpler. So I put the variance in there if we need it, and then I guess we can discuss who considers what and go from there. So I think I'm done for now.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Ernie, any questions?
Yeah, I have a lot of them. How wide is the path?
3 feet.
3 feet wide?
Yep.
Just as an aside, the hardship argument I didn't think I thought it was kind of weak, to tell you the truth.
I have to write something, so
Yeah.
I get it.
So the path is within the 50-foot zone. One question for you, so that you have piles along the shore, based on this.
Mm-hmm.
How would those be driven?
Usually,
Because you have a long distance between a measurable depth of water that the barge could get into, I would think, and where those piles will have to reside.
well, high tide is right at the edge of the marsh, and a working barge, if it's big enough, and you can certainly get a big one in here, will have a crane on it that can
Yeah.
lift the pile over.
Yeah.
If not, they can auger it to start and do a tripod mechanism with a hammer on the top to push it in. So there's a number of toys and tools you can use to do it.
Okay.
And that's the same method if we had to put the walkway, if this is, again, the conundrum is that the walkway is perfectly within regulations and bylaws to put out there, but we all agree it's probably not the best way to do it. So one of the reasons that you grant a variance is that it's either the lesser of two evils, per se. You know, what we're proposing is less damaging than something that is approvable. So although this may or may not meet your guidelines, it's a better alternative than the walkway. So if they built a walkway here, which goes directly over marsh, they would have to auger them in and drive them by hand. You can't get a barge in there or anything like that. That would be a tripod type of scenario. They can auger down 6 to 10 feet, depending on how big their toys are. And beyond that, the pile is short enough that they can get a tripod on top and push it down the rest of the way, if that helps.
All right, good. There was a comment somewhere in here that it was already approved as from a navigable perspective.
That's from Waterways.
So they're comfortable with this?
Waterways looks at it primarily for navigation.
Yeah.
And, yeah, John and Hines have been out there quite a bit. And we staked out the first location, and he looked at it, and I said, well, what do you think, if we do a path, what do you think about putting it here? And he's like, I like that better.
Yeah.
So we couldn't present both alternatives to Waterways, so we went with this one, and that's the one that they approved. That's the same plan as this one that they signed.
Did they put any condition for the size of a boat he could put on this? You mentioned he wants to get a boat eventually and that sort of a thing.
We talked about that, and they've tried that in the past, and until it's in your bylaws, it's not really an enforceable condition that you can put in there. Now, having said that, John Rendon, your harbor master, does have jurisdictional enforcement over specific things. You know, if somebody puts a 50-foot catamaran there that sticks way out or something like that, he can go, you know, come on, guys, you can't really do this. You're inhibiting navigation. So there is that, but it's not, your bylaws aren't constructed in a manner that you can actually put it in the bylaw and have it be enforceable, because it's not part of your regulations. But he has the ultimate authority. He can do that.
Okay, all right. So he had no comments then? There's a comment, there's a notation in here, the comments to be included with this
The depth of
application.
the water also would restrict how big a boat.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's right, because you only have, 3.5 feet off the end of the dock, right?
Right.
All right,
It's a self-fulfilling prophecy there.
Can't have a keel sailboat.
yep,
No.
okay.
Or one with a retractable keel maybe, but that's it. But yes, agreed. And, or something that draws 4 feet, because you know, if you get a boat that big, you're paying so much money for the motor and the props, you don't want those things bouncing off the sand either. So again, a self-fulfilling prophecy where they don't want it any more than you do, you know? They don't want their motors on the bottom any more than you guys do.
That's why they tilt the motors up now.
If it is that way, yeah. If it's an inboard, then, or a, what do you call it? Not an, an inboard, not an inboard outboard, but if they're outboards, yes, you tilt them up.
On page 6, it discusses the shellfish impact and all. And
This
you
is
have
in
a-
the narrative? Yeah.
Yes. And you have a comment here that the applicants are open to this potential mitigation if suggested by the commission. Is that our call?
Yeah.
To reseed or something? It is.
Yes, we can make that condition if it's appropriate.
All right.
Yes, it's been done before. It wasn't entirely clear before, so we need to, if we're going to do that, we need to be clear as to how much we're talking about, because we got into there was a little discrepancy there. But yeah, as I stated, the applicant's open to that as well. Other towns have a fund that you contribute to, and that way, like for this site, you could spend thousands of dollars and do your seeding on this site. The point is, that's okay, you could do that, but it's possible that if a different area had the same effort, you might get a better result. You know, there's no shellfish here for a reason. There's not that many shellfish here for a reason. So my opinion is it would be better to put that effort towards somewhere where it can truly be appreciated than putting it here where you might lose it all, you know. But that's up to you. The applicant is certainly open to it, and it's in the form of either a monetary amount, and I could help you with that too, because we've done that in other towns, or a certain amount of seating. I don't know did he say a certain amount? A 3-year sequence, but he didn't say how much, so, you know, the last project that I was involved with in this town was so many bushels. You gotta define what those bushels are, that's all, okay?
Well, they're not proposing to seed this area then, right?
It's really up to you guys.
Then there's no public access there.
Right.
They-
I agree. I
value
think,
that.
I think the mitigation would best be used for a public benefit elsewhere, in a better location that Heinz can deem appropriate.
Yeah.
I agree.
Do you know how long the association footpath has been there?
I have the order of conditions for it. Somewhere in all this. I
And
do.
that's similar to what they're proposing here?
He saw that and he
3
goes,
feet?
he says, you know, can we, can I do that? I'm like, I don't see why not. I think it's 10 years old. It's SE 32 1544. It was issued in 2001.
So that's something that would have come to us as well, then, I assume?
Oh, yeah.
It would have predated our bylaw, I believe,
Would it? Okay.
different rules essentially.
Yeah.
But it's there and living happily in its location. It's not removed either. It's completely permanent.
And last question, so is the area that the path going over, is that sloped, is it flat?
There's, well, you can see the contours here. There's elevation 6 here, elevation 4.8, 4.8, 4.6, pretty flat here, pretty flat. A little bit of a, that's why this doesn't have wetland vegetation on it. It's got other kinds of grasses. Not quite beach grass, maybe quack grass or something. But, yeah, so 5, 4.8, 6 up here, of course, you're getting up higher. And then down here, you go back up to 5.3.
Yeah, what I found intriguing about this was when we were out visiting with Wequassett, with the proposal there, you were a big advocate of the raised pathway that he was going to be putting in out to the deck.
Yep.
But here, you're not proposing that. You seem to think that this is acceptable.
Well, right, the raised elevated walkway would have been here. That was, I think, 3.5 feet wide, or that's what we would propose anyway. I think you can go 4 feet wide, but we'd go 3.5. But, pile supported, big, 200 feet long thing. So, yeah, this was what everybody thought was a better idea.
To have it not elevated.
Correct. Now, visual impacts aren't part of the bylaw, but there's certainly a visual impact, but there's a number of other factors, but go ahead.
When he's talking about Quasit, he's talking about raising it 6 inches. You're talking about 6 feet, right?
Well,
The Quasit
even
one,
the-
he said they're
even
gonna
the
raise it just 6 inches.
My understanding
Right.
was that there was some significant benefits to getting it off of the ground, allowing the vegetation to grow underneath it, and that
Right.
sort of a thing.
Right. And the idea about the path is that even if you didn't have this to walk on, the slats to walk on, by utilizing it as a path, which is a perfectly permittable use, you would wear out the vegetation and destroy the
Well,
vegetation.
this obviously gets rid of the vegetation
Yep.
too. I mean, it's the same effect.
Right. Now, we could do a sand path. We could do, I don't know about gravel, but you could do sand. There's lots of sand out there already. It's going to end up that way. So I'd rather plan for that than just have it end up that way. So that's really, that's open to discussion. We're presenting what the applicant would like to have for the reasons that he's shown, and it's certainly up for discussion. And I realize this is not an easy one. This isn't meant to put anybody in an awkward position. It's a juxtaposition of the conundrum, there's a lot of big words, conundrum between doing something that's completely permittable, but it's really not the best option, or coming up with a better option that, by the rules, is a little more difficult.
Then
Makes for interesting conversations.
Yeah, the only last question I had is, in looking at that picture that you gave to us, it looks like there's an area here where the salt marsh, it crosses the salt marsh where there is seep. Is that right, or am I reading this wrong?
There's a little seep right here that's, you can barely see the green where is it? Right here. Right
So
in
does
here.
it
This
avoid-
goes, it skirts the side of it,
Okay,
okay?
so it doesn't cross that then?
No, it's close. It's close to get over here, it's close. But, you know, we could also come down this way and come over a little bit more. That's somewhat fluid, you know?
That's why
Yeah.
it's crooked.
Yeah,
Yeah, there's no straight lines here.
all right, thank you.
You're welcome.
What?
Did the harbor master give a letter with his opinions?
They were supposed to. That's what we expect from them usually, but they're not a regulatory board, so the letter that you get from them saying is, basically, they say the same thing. It just says that we've reviewed the project and have no objection to the project. But by signing the plan, I guess they're doing that. But yes, I, like you, expected something in writing from them. I'm surprised you didn't get it.
Yeah, I'd be interested in an opinion. I'm confused as to all these lines and
Okay?
which,
I can,
well, like, how about the rectangle one in the middle, the red dotted line?
this one?
Yes.
Okay, that is the area that was mapped as the channel from the dredging plans that another consultant did for the Allen Harbor dredging project.
That is the historic dredge footprint?
This one is way out here, here to here. The red line from here to here is the historic dredge footprint. So historically, it might have been dredged to here. This is the actual 50-foot wide channel as mapped. And it's about 6 feet deep all the way across here.
Yeah. Yeah, but they don't dredge this, they didn't dredge this close to land.
He's saying that might have just grown in since they dredged.
Yeah, so this is quite outdated.
It could be.
Right, this is historic. This is not reality anymore.
So-
Historically, they may have dredged here. I don't think they can do this anymore.
No, it would be
Agreed.
interesting to me to see where actually the dredge
Did?
section is. And if this interior rectangle is the historic dredge footprint, is the,
Channel.
where they dredged every other year,
Mm-hmm.
they're dredging very close to this dock. This is, in my opinion, and that's why I'd like to see the harbor masters, that this is not a wide channel. It looks wide on this diagram, but when you're on a boat dealing with it, it's not wide at all. And if two boats are passing, two good-sized boats, say two 35-foot boats,
Mhm.
you don't have much room, and this is narrowing it even more.
Well, it's actually narrower down here. Your 3-foot wide channel is 68 feet down here, and it's even narrower as you transit here because you've got a bunch of rocks on this side. So it gets,
Yeah, so that would be my point. If you've got another boat coming in here, you have to have one boat up here maybe holding off, maybe two boats holding off to get through.
John didn't seem to think that was the case.
Yeah,
And it has to do with how big our boats are up in here, you know,
yeah.
so. But that's
yeah.
one thing the Waterways Committee, he's been up and down in front of this site probably at least twice, because he did it once for here and once for here. And that's specifically what one of the things that the Waterways Committee looks at.
Yeah, well, I'm one of the lesser skilled boaters, so I like lots of room.
You have less room down here than you
Require
do
lots
here.
of room.
I agree. Nobody wants to create a demolition derby. You should probably not be allowed in Witchmere Harbor
I
then.
just don't think that Lyme disease is a hardship enough to warrant
I'm just saying,
this construction in the 50.
But there's more area to navigate here with this float here. There's more area to navigate here than there is down here. And remember, these
Yeah.
distances are without a boat on here. So you've got almost 10 feet less to deal with here. So if they can deal with it here, they can deal with it here. We've got more room. We're not restricting it any more than what's already there.
Well,
But-
as
But
I
they
said,
do look at that.
We can request something from John, right, Walter?
Is it even in our purview?
Yeah, we can
Yeah.
request minutes of their meeting.
I'm surprised they always have done it over the years. I don't know why they didn't
Sure
this
if
time.
Amy got it, and we just don't know because she's been out for a while.
Other than that, I just hate to see this.
Okay, Bob?
I have a few comments, if not questions. This other path that they put in, the association has. When we were up there, there's 4 or 5 of us, I don't know, the first time we went and looked at this. You said, oh, you know, they have, this other thing, the association has one on that, and we said, oh, that's good, we'll go take a look at it. And we finished, and we were all saying, oh, that sounds like, you know, it sounds like a reasonable thing to consider. And we walked over there, and you spun ahead, and you looked, and we go like, holy crow. I mean, it's substantial, and it's there, and it's killing everything under it, you know, and we looked at it, it wasn't quite as good an idea as, you know, when the guy looked at it, he says, oh, that looks really good, I need it. When we looked at that, we said, oh, we don't like that, I don't think we'd do that now. And so, I'm just saying that 2 different opinions when we looked at it, okay?
What we don't know is they may have wound that path over bare sand. I mean, unless we had some pictures, there's 2 things that could have happened. The vegetation could have grown to the walkway, or they might have sited it where there isn't any vegetation, in which case nothing's changed, but we don't know that. We need historical pictures to,
It's a significant structure in the 50-foot,
what you saw and what you saw for the
and what
association.
this would be, too.
If you want to call it a structure, it rests on the ground, it's not
Call it a
attached.
structure, yeah, right, if
And
you
I-
want to call it a structure.
Right, and I tried to help you out by giving you bullets of the regulations from the zoning, what they call a structure. They don't mention something like this, they call it a shed, and things which support something else, is the way I would take it, that they consider a structure. So the first thing is whether or not it's considered a structure, and then the second thing is, okay, if it's a structure, is it in a resource area or a buffer zone? I could go either way on the structure point, but I'm pretty solid on saying that it's in a resource area, not a buffer zone, because it's land subject.
I understand what the gentleman wants, or the family wants to
Mm-hmm.
not get their feet sandy and not step on anything and drag stuff along, but that's a lot, I think. I'm just saying, in my opinion right now, and I had to find out, because I read the things and I structure, and I have trouble too, and we're gonna call it the garden a structure.
I know.
Okay?
I know.
If that little garden
I'm very
was gonna have as a structure, this is certainly, you
I'm
know,
very familiar with how well you guard structures in
Right.
the 0 to 50.
okay, so we're talking here, I assume, because we have some, I think we need some other questions and some other opinions and information, and I'm sure you're just trying to get a feel for what we'd like to do and where we're gonna go with this, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, this is one of these ones, like I said, it's gonna elicit some really good conversations and some ideas and things like that. You know how we got to this point, and nobody wants to walk away with it. We obviously don't want a denial.
Yep.
You guys know me, we've worked with this commission over the years many times to formulate a way so that we both get what we want, and, you know, we're happy to do that.
I have no trouble with the dock, I'm sure it's okay, I'm sure John would have said something if he didn't, but we'll get that information from him anyway, and we gotta go through waterways, and they have to let it go too, so it's not just us.
Right.
I guess my only concerns is the damage we're gonna do with this walkway. And if there's a different way, a better way to do it, that's more livable for us and besides the owner too.
Well, and that way would be an elevated walkway, which,
Yeah, well,
like I said,
I don't
here
want-
we are.
I don't want 200
I agree.
posts draping in.
I
Okay,
agree.
all right. I'm sorry,
John?
I'm done.
John?
No, just a comment, I can appreciate how difficult it is because you are boxed in and just so many, by so many regulations of where you can place anything and how you can do it. I understand that. I think it's probably the best of all choices
Thank you.
as I'm looking at it.
Brad?
Yeah, I've got a few. Does the plan show the 50-foot boundary?
No, because I'm calling it all a resource area,
The entire walkway is in the resource area as well?
because it's in land subject to coastal storm flowage.
Okay, all right, that clarifies that. So you asked if the board members felt if this would require variance for both the pier and the walkway, and I feel it does. And with the pier, to me, it's quite clear it's in a shellfish area,
Mhm.
designated both state and town. And so in that case, it does need a variance, and then it has to show that there are no negative impacts to the interest of the act
Mhm.
and the bylaws. And so I have some concerns there, but I think my concerns for the walkway are probably more significant. And, you know, you did provide us with a series of alternatives, and this one, I'm concerned about it. I think you've got functional habitat right now, protected resources, and the walkway will change that dramatically. And so I have trouble advancing a variance for that alternative. And I personally think that the best alternative for this would be just a footpath that over time would degrade the vegetation a little, but this would have very seasonal use. And so over time, you put down this footprint, but it would be a very narrow footprint and far less impact than the proposed walkway. So that's my feeling, is that the variance for the walkway as proposed is a difficult approval for this board. And in terms of the elevator walkway, again, I come back, you've done an alternative analysis, you've laid it out for us. I think the alternative of having just a footpath that the property owner uses over time would be the least impactful and the most permittable, because we do allow footpath access. So that's probably something you could resolve, in my mind, the easiest. The dock, the impacts of the dock are, it is a shellfish habitat area. Didn't find high densities, but we still have to demonstrate that it does not go counter to the interest of the act and the bylaws, and so it is a habitat. What I find with docks and piers is we have a little disagreement here, Mark, because I do feel they degrade habitat, and the way they do that is the pilings cause scouring, the pilings displace habitat, the float through its hydraulic action will disrupt the sediment below and result in fines accumulating. If it's a high velocity area, that's not a big a deal. If you think about Witchmere Harbor, floats cause significant impacts to shellfish habitat there. Maybe less so here, because you might have some velocity of the tide going in and out.
We were told, yeah, that, I mean, the current kind of rips through there, yeah.
Right, so that's, but I'm just trying to outline what I think of the impacts. So, and then what else? There would be the upland habitat, the approach to the ramp, and the final one is cumulative impacts. The board can consider through our bylaws cumulative impacts in a waterway from additional dock and piers. So those are all the concerns I have for the dock. I think you've done a good job by making this seasonal, and so that's a benefit. But those are my concerns. I think that, you know, the walkway, I think, is very difficult to permit as proposed. The pier, I have concerns over the overall impacts of all those things I stated.
Okay, can I comment?
Sure.
Okay. This is the part I like. If the walkway was there, if that was seasonal, granted it'd be a pain in the butt to pull it up, but if it was seasonal, would you be more favorable to that? Or does that really matter? I'm just asking. So.
It would be better, but I would still say the alternative of having a footpath would be least impactful.
Okay.
That's, to me, very nice habitat, that little, you know, bluff, so to speak, or, you know, that little jog in the river there is very functional wildlife habitat. So I think having a footpath is much less impactful than any of the alternatives.
Okay. As far as the dock goes, knowing that the design, okay, and knowing that we've designed against all of the guidelines and regulations that we have that avoid negative impacts, do you feel that, as designed, that we've done what we need to do to avoid significant negative impacts to the shellfish resource? And if not, what else could we do?
Very good question.
Mm-hmm.
It's what you need to get to, and I think you've done a very good job with that site. My concern would be, when it comes time to vote, is the cumulative impacts of the pilings to displacing habitat, to scouring, the float impacts. 2.5 to me is a bare bones, and that's why our reg says that, nothing less than 2.5. When you're that close, you've got hydraulic action that changes that substrate below. So I'd love to see our regs have 3 feet, but it's just, this is what we have to work with. So that's an impact. And then the cumulative impact as well. So I think you've really got the dock and pier into a position where we need to consider those things together, but it's not something where, say if it had 4 times the density of shellfish, then I would think that it would be an impact that would not be supported by our bylaws. You're in a zone of shellfish density where it's a judgment call on the actual shellfish that are there. Certainly would require mitigation if we were to go forward. And the public can access this spot. You can go down the beach to the jetty and go up, and people that really want to get oysters will do that, but it's not easy access. But I would say it's a place where I've gone, you know, just to check it out, and you can go to the beach and go up and get oysters along that side. So it is a place that will have some access and some shellfish occurring. So I think that's where I am right now with that.
Okay, so yeah, if there was something else that we could do, obviously, like we said, mitigation is fine in a form that we agree on, that's great. If I move this out, I have to go back to waterways, and I don't think that's I don't think that's the best answer either, to get more water. The 2.5 is what everybody seems to agree with between Division of Marine Fisheries and the Dock and Pier guidelines and your local bylaw, so.
2.5's okay for kayaks.
I'm sorry?
2.5's okay for kayaks. 2.5 feet's okay for kayaks.
Well, it's okay for your floats too, right? So that depends on, after that, it depends on what boat is up against the float. And of course, the center line of the boat is out further, you know, but I'm not sure I understand what you mean.
I guess he's saying it's the minimum. The 2.5 is the minimum, you know, and I think anything in that range can be impactful, so you can't be below, you can't be 2.6.
And that's why I did what I did, to keep it that way exactly. I'm like, if everybody said the 2.5 feet is what we need to do to avoid significant impacts, then that's what we're gonna do. The only way that I would increase the landward side is you'd have to make the float narrower. Now, it's already 8 feet, and going down any narrower than that, you start to create, in all honesty, 6 feet is it. After that, you're walking on a cork. But that's the only way you would increase it, increase that distance. But I would prefer to see a polling of the audience based on the design that we've done, because there's been a lot of effort into it and a lot of consideration.
I think you've done a good job, and with the footprint you have, you've got your dimensions as well as you can. You know, my concern is new structure in the no disturb zone that we can write a variance for it are the cumulative impacts. Walkway, pilings, float, supportable to allow us to conclude there is no, you know, negative impact to our interest. And that's what I'm concerned about. If you add the walkway and the pier, I would say I have concerns. That's a lot of modification in the no disturb zone.
If I ask the applicant to say, fine, the commission's willing to go with a designated path, we'd have to like stake it out like it is now, and that's where he'd have to go, because he can't just, you know, go anywhere, right? You wanna, if you're gonna allow a path, it's gonna be in a repeatable location, correct? Okay, so I can ask him if he gives this up and just is allowed to create an access way out there that he can walk on. If we give up that entirely, without proposing the elevated walkway, is that enough consideration for this resource area to lessen the impacts of the site as a whole, that you would be okay with that?
I think you got support for a path.
A walking path.
Yes, I agree. I understand. And that's my first question to the applicant when I talk to them.
The other concern I have with that walkway is that you're talking about a trek deck type of walk. I mean, that's permanent. If he abandons that path, it'll always be there. It's never going anywhere. Whereas if it was a natural path, it's recoverable. I mean,
Yeah.
the habitat would come back, the vegetation will. Now, you mentioned the dock is seasonal?
Yes. You haven't been here for the previous iterations of how we ended up where we are, but the Harwich bylaws say that all docks have to be seasonal, and that means pilings and everything. But both the contractors and the commission realize that actually taking these things out of the water and putting them back in disturbs the bottom and the sediments and the shellfish and everything twice a year, every single year.
Yeah.
So Skip from Cross Rip Ocean Services actually came forward with the idea to say, look, let's just put the pilings in, but leave them there. It's a one-time disturbance. And what we'll do is we'll make the decking seasonal. So you have a framework, but then all of that decking gets removed. So sunlight can go fully through the dock in the off-season, and things have a chance to breathe and rejuvenate and things like that, even though it's in the off-season.
Right.
And that was the intent there.
The location, that's where I was going with this though, Mark. So the location that they have here, you can't remove it based on the land that they've got behind that. How would they remove that dock?
You can carry, well, it's
You
just,
can't put it in the 50, right?
no, it would have to be stored in the upland. And there's a note in there, the float and the ramp all come out as well. So whoever takes the ramp and the float can take the decking. It just lifts up. It's
Yeah.
clipped,
No,
it's
I
clipped in,
understand
but
that,
it
yeah.
lifts up. And you would just store that on the float with the ramp, tow it around, and they put it in his driveway.
Okay.
Yes. Yep.
If the purpose of putting this walkway and this float ramp and float in was for the owner to get from there to here with his kayak. Okay, so and now we change this to a footpath, so he's still repeating what he's doing now with his little dolly and his kayak, and he's getting here, and then he's going to get on a ramp
Oh, the
and
stairs.
go out to a float and then have to lower his kayak into the water as opposed to just eliminating all of this and launching his kayak from the beach when he doesn't have to go through as much machinations?
Well, he can do that. He could do that now. He could do that without any of
That's
this.
what I'm saying.
But if he does that, then he's trampling through salt marsh, and that's kind of a no-no as well. So this is a way to get over the salt marsh and get over the beach without touching it at all and getting safe access to the water.
So he proposed to bring his kayaks out here in the spring, put them on the rack, and just leave them there.
Yeah, you saw the racks,
Taking them
right?
out every,
Got it.
yeah.
The idea behind the rack is it's up high. We used to just extend the supporting bents and put them down low, but you can't reach over the railing to get them, so people would have to get them from the shoreline, and then that doesn't really encourage the use of the actual dock to launch the kayak. So I came up with this idea to put them up higher. They used to be down here, an extension of this board. Now they're up here. So when you walk along, you've got to get on the dock first, and then you just pick up the boat right at shoulder level and carry it down. It
I missed that
greatly,
storage element.
okay, it greatly discourages, I mean, think about that. It's harder for them now to walk over, even harder for them to walk over the marsh if they wanted to. They've got this great access, that's what they're going to use.
And I'm sure they'll use the dock for more than just the kayaks. I'm sure they'll bring a chair out there and a bottle of wine and stuff too, so it's not just for that.
There is a storage bench, that's standard on my designs anyway, you guys have seen that before. There's a storage bench out there. DEP allows 2 by 8, and that's it. I tried bigger once, they said no. And, but that's for a storage of life jackets and paddles as well. So all the equipment can hang out there, and all you have to do is walk out, grab it, and go. So the question here really is, if the applicant was willing to give up the walkway entirely and just use a footpath, are you guys okay with the dock? That's really what it boils down to. I'm sure the applicant would be fine with it if you were.
Well, I think I'd be fine as long as we could answer all the questions that we brought up as far as.
Sure.
I mean, the trouble is, thing says 2.5 feet, and maybe you think that's a bad thing, but it's a bad thing for everybody around. And to punish this gentleman or this family because we think 2.5 feet is gonna cause, doesn't seem fair to me. You got a regular law, we got plenty of laws around this country that are wrong, but they are what they are.
It's permitted under the
Punish-
bylaws. It's
Right.
permitted under the bylaws.
Right, so I would not, the fact it's 2.5 feet to 3.5 feet, to me, that's out of the equation. That's what the law says, like that. So unless we could prove some of the others that we are scouring more and as far as the clams, I mean, they're more than willing to give us mitigation somewhere else.
Mhm.
And I think I've clammed around here a little bit. That's not, like, people don't flock to that spot to get clams.
It would appear
Right.
It's hard to get
not.
to.
And
Yeah.
then you gotta also consider that, let's just say that they dredge, you can tell by the contours, now this was only dredged last year, so assuming it's stabilized somewhat, contours are pretty even. I think that would indicate where the dredge slope is, because they go down pretty evenly and then it's flat, and then they come up again pretty evenly. So I think that is your dredge footprint that you're looking at, and the float's within that. So it doesn't make sense to me to seed an area that would periodically, however often they do it, it doesn't make sense to me to seed an area that they're gonna get sucked up in the dredge, you know? It doesn't make sense to me, so I agree, it makes more sense to do it off-site, where the public can get the entire public can get a benefit out of it.
Yeah, and it doesn't even have to be where somebody can climb it, it just could be something that helps the environment.
Either way.
They're filters and they do a lot of other good things
Yep.
besides eating them.
Correct. No, it could be a public benefit or an environmental benefit, or both. Right. So you would be okay with it, though, if we did that?
I would.
Okay.
Okay, do we have a motion, or do we want to continue this to another session?
Well, I think we need to, you'd like to get something from John Randone, right?
I would, I'm thinking that these blue things are the historic dredge footprint.
Okay.
Because that's the ones with the 68 feet, the 76 feet, the 50 feet access.
And we're still looking at a variance, even with just a dock.
And the dock is.
What's that?
We're still looking at a
smack dab
variance.
in the middle of it.
Yeah,
Right.
it's still a variance.
So I think I would like to have Amy's, I don't want to push her off, I'd like to have Amy's view on this also.
Yeah, unless you were overwhelmingly in favor of it tonight,
Yeah.
I would continue it, and let's get a little more, answer some of the questions that you want. I want to make sure that the client's okay with me giving this up for him, because he didn't tell me that. I'm offering that, saying, hey, if we just let this go, even, I know he wants it a lot, but if he lets it go, he still can have an access that he can depend on,
Yep.
and then still have this. I think that's a win-win, so, but I can't say yes to
You don't
that.
have a pole, right?
Say again?
I don't think you have a pole. I mean,
We were heading in that direction.
I think you like to have that happen, but I think you've heard different viewpoints. But I think what you should take to the proponent is that we'd like to see plan modifications that have the alternative of having the footpath put in. And then I think your question to have some correspondence from the harbor master.
Yes,
I think that's what we're asking for.
correct. We need the letter from Waterways, and I need to see if the applicant's willing to give up the path.
Right.
If there's any other changes you're suggesting, now's the time to bring it up, but
Shellfish mitigation?
Well, I think that would be, part of the approval. I could see a condition of that, as well as some really good language for off-season storage. But I don't think we're there yet.
Right, that's after we approve it,
Right.
if we approve it.
I want to get back to the site and look at it again at dead low. So I'd like to go back there and just think about the cumulative impact point with a dock. So that's what I'd like to do, and then see the plan modified.
So I guess my question is, I wouldn't know how to look at the cumulative impact. Is that measurable? What are you gonna do?
It's a
What
good
would
question.
have to be
It's looking at the footprint, a second time, thinking about the shellfish survey, getting there at a good low tide, looking at it closely, looking at the pile placements, that's really important. I'd love to go out and show you guys some docks in Herring River and here, and point out the impacts the piling placements cause with scouring and losing salt marsh. So matching up this footprint to this design and going back and looking at that'll be helpful for me to think about that. I think Mark has done a good job
Yeah.
with minimizing those concerns with this footprint, but that's something that I need to look at very closely.
So are there markings out there for where the
yes.
pilings would be?
There's a stake right here at the beginning.
Okay, I can't
There's a
remember.
stake here at the end of the, at the end of the pier, and there's two stakes to delineate the sides of the float. So you should see 4 stakes out there.
Okay, so
And there's pictures of them, but the pictures kind of came out crappy.
I thought there were stakes, but I wasn't sure how long they last in the water.
The one out here, it's a little more muckier there, and I only have 10-foot PVC, that's what it comes to. So by the time I put it 3 feet in the ground, at high tide, it's about this far above the water. So it could be bent over, but it's,
But I think you're more interested in where the pilings would be than where the dock ends, right? Sort of scouring and stuff from that?
Right, and then, again, the shellfish survey, document presence, low densities. If the densities were 3-4 times higher, I would not support a new structure going in at that type of shellfish habitat. So it's kind of on the margin of where I would have real concerns based on shellfish. So I'd want to look at it again and think about that.
Because you said the shellfish was done a little bit further down, not at that exact spot.
Right,
Yeah,
but,
this is the area that it was
but
done.
it established, with our,
Yeah.
with our bylaws, if it's designated shellfish habitat and they're found, we don't necessarily have to approve a new structure there. So it's, I take new proposals for docks and piers very seriously, and I think we should just scrutinize these impacts and just think about whether it's acceptable for a variance. So that's what I'd like to look at.
Would you be ready for 2 weeks from now to,
I think so.
I think we're meeting in 1 week, aren't we?
no,
What?
the notice said something about the 25th.
2 weeks?
Yeah, they moved it, yeah.
Okay.
I think because you have to have certain times
Okay,
between
okay.
them. So I
don't
just
have
want to
my-
make sure that we're ready, if he's, comes back in 2 weeks, that we have our answers, yes or no.
Well, I'll get the letter from Waterways either emailed to Amy or, or I'll get it, and I'll check on the applicant on the path. And like I said, Pam couldn't be here tonight, but maybe she can be here following up to give you more of a scientific analysis. So you're saying May 25th?
It's always good to get Amy's input on variances.
Yeah, that's
I missed
exactly
that
right.
because she's sick.
Yeah, she has pneumonia.
Yeah,
That's terrible.
yeah, knocks you down.
Okay,
Okay,
I
so
don't
I-
have my phone with me, so it's smarter than me usually, so I think I'm okay on the 25th, because you guys are on Wednesday. All the other towns meet on other dates, so I think I'm okay.
I move that
let
we
you know.
continue this hearing until May 25th, or the next available hearing. The proponent.
You
Second.
Okay, second, Bob, second. All in favor of continuing this?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. We're gonna continue it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks for the good words, Brad.
Always interested. I learn a lot from your writing, too.
Well, thank you.
Okay, we're taking a 2-minute break.
Good. I was just going to suggest that.
Did any folks continue on the agenda?
6 and 7, the one down the bottom and the one after, the
Oh, good.
424 Pleasant, down the bottom of the page there, and the one at the top of it.
Witchmere Harbor,
While I'm here,
at Witchmere Harbor, when they changed ownership, the new owners had a great big boat docked at what used to be the Clam Bar. It was petitioned by Stonehorse Yacht Club to the harbor master to say you can't dock that big a boat in the middle of the channel. And the harbor master, which was Tom Leach at the time, his answer was, sorry, now that's under Massachusetts waterways. But that decision is now a
Really?
state decision, not his.
These are my 2 minutes.
So if this guy wanted to put a 50-foot boat on this dock, you're saying that the harbor master wouldn't have any jurisdiction?
I'm
Or
saying the
wouldn't claim
previous harbor master's inclination would be to say he could, unless the state refused it.
We have setbacks to the nearest dock, and so it would have to meet our setbacks. But if it did, then I think, I don't know.
the real way around that is when you go to change your bylaws, is you come up with some formula for width of a boat versus a channel or whatever, and you have to put it in your bylaws. That's the only way it becomes clear and enforceable. Otherwise, it's subject to interpretation.
Easier said than done, right?
Yeah, what's unusual, this is 2.5 feet right next to the channel.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, it gets dredged every other year, isn't it?
I don't know. John said the only reason they dredged it this time was to be able to get the barge in to do the other dredging.
There's a reason the town owns the dredge. I mean, it goes from channel to channel to channel to channel to channel to channel to channel
You need a
constantly.
second one. That's I mean, like offshore mining of sediments to nourish beaches is the cheapest thing to do. And the area is just warming up to it, and only warming up like they just turned the key on, And they do it everywhere else in the country. And here, you'd think we were squeezing the head off of a puppy or something, but it's so much the right way to do it. Did that get recorded? Just briefly, there's a certificate of compliance later on in the, I'll wait around if I have to, but it's a certificate of compliance for Francis Veal for 93 Riverside. Amy, I believe, recommended approval.
Did we get some correspondence from Amy?
I didn't see anything on that.
yesterday, and she said that Amy had made a note of something that said she had recommended approval for it.
Did we get that email?
Yeah,
Did you send it via email? I'm not sure.
I don't think we have it.
I didn't get anything, Mark.
Okay, do you want me to stay then for it, or?
Well, I think without a recommendation from Amy, we shouldn't vote on it. And I feel bad, because it sounds like you were expecting that, but.
Well, there's a reason, because unbeknownst to them, they went for a refinance. Not a mortgage per se, but just a refinance. And the bank is holding them, saying, well, you gotta get a certificate of compliance for this. I've never heard of that. It's like, why should that matter?
For a refinance.
For refinance.
I don't know how that applies.
I agree, but that's why we're here, and we had to do it right away because they've got funds tied up and it's a mess. So it's like, I told her, I said, have the bank call me, I'll set them straight, but that didn't happen, so. So the word anxious would be underutilization of the word at this point.
Yeah, we don't have it on the agenda.
Yeah,
It's on
Well,
there.
it's a little,
But
it's the last one,
Yeah. Number
certificate of
11?
compliance.
Is it Janet? No, who is it? Who's in the office? I'm trying to think of
93
the name.
Jennifer?
Riverside Drive?
Jennifer Clark,
I talked to her yesterday, I think, and
This
she
was
said
the
that she had talked to
preliminary.
Amy, and Amy had been to the site and said that she was recommending approval. That's what she told me. I don't know if
Yeah,
this
this
is.
is-
I thought she said.
oh,
she
that's a
did.
site summary,
Yeah.
and this is
I don't think it came to us.
compliance, 93 Riverside.
Well, I can tell you there was
The
no
preliminary
as-built was
was
required. I
included.
went out and measured
Here,
everything, and
here.
it's perfect.
93 Riverside?
Yeah,
When, no
Yeah.
as-built was required?
Last
No as-built was
Yeah,
required.
I don't see that, I don't see
I
that.
know,
I mean-
I looked, because I
When was
wanted
it
to make,
constructed?
2 or 3 years ago?
That's on the west side, right?
see,
Yes.
Yeah.
And then we amended it to add some some timber erosion steps.
we couldn't vote on it anyway, because what happens, Amy goes out and looks at the site and comes back in and tells us,
I know.
because a lot of these happened before we were in here, so we don't have the paperwork to know what they should have done, never mind what they did do.
Well, I'm not lying to you, but I understand your position, but that's what I was told by Jen yesterday, was that Amy had talked to her between bouts of pneumonia, and that she said that she had gone out to the site, that everything was fine, and she was recommending approval. So I thought that would be in the file somewhere.
She'd have to come in physically for it.
Well, we would sign it. Amy would need to sign it. Yeah, we would sign it.
Do we have any paperwork that we could even sign?
No, we don't have anything.
There's nothing in there anywhere?
No, it's on the agenda, we don't have any paperwork.
Yeah, if the packet isn't there to be signed, then that's the end of
There's
it.
the packet. The packet's here,
Okay.
Oh, it isn't, okay.
and there's a thing from Jen asking for 4 signatures on here.
So is there something from Amy in that packet? I mean, I assume she would have stuck it in there if she was left a note to try and sign it.
I would think it wouldn't make it to you unless she was okay with it.
Well, the thing is, she might be okay with it, but we might not be okay with it.
I'm surprised it got past us without an as-built. That's unusual.
Yeah.
I don't see a letter from Amy.
We'll have to check with Jennifer tomorrow.
And what we've done in the past is, if we find it, people will come in and sign it. We won't wait for the 2 weeks to ask you to come in and sign it. But I'm afraid we can't, we got nothing to sign.
Well, it's there, isn't it?
It's there.
It is there.
Well, okay, we have no data to tell if we should sign it.
She usually fills out a field form on these that documents what she found.
You want to look at this?
Well, I don't know, you know, I can't tell you if it should be there or not, but I think she does document what she sees on a certificate of compliance.
Did you guys see the packet that I submit for the certificate? There's photos in there and stuff. Do you see that at all?
No,
Photos are here.
oh, well,
that's my letter, yeah.
I don't see anything from Amy other than this form from the Mass Department of Environmental Protection.
Right.
Certificate of compliance. Certificate of compliance. Nothing from Amy.
I think she probably just left, like you do when you're not feeling well and some things get left behind, so hopefully your clients can lock in on what they're doing and 2 weeks won't hurt.
Well, as you say, it doesn't have to be the 2 weeks, right?
Yeah, I'll be happy, I'll come in and talk to Jen in the morning
Okay.
and see if she has something. And, I mean, maybe we can even talk to Amy, because she was even thinking about trying to come in today, but obviously she
Okay.
didn't do that. And see if we can do something about 4 of us make it in here to sign it, if everything's okay.
Okay.
So,
I'll sign it,
yeah, well, a nice 5 of us then.
Okay.
Okay,
Best I could do, sorry.
I understand.
All right.
Okay.
the next,
Gee, it's worth about a quarter, but that won't buy a cup of coffee.
Say that again?
Your signature, that's worth about a quarter, won't even get you a cup of coffee.
I'm not sure it's worth that.
Oh, I see.
Not in anything you guys submit, not stuff I submit.
next,
Oh, okay.
next 2 items are 4
Thanks.
4 Pleasant Lake Avenue. We have a letter requesting that it be continued to the next meeting, 424 Pleasant Lake Avenue. Need a motion.
I'd make a motion to continue to May 25th.
And a motion to continue. Did you second it?
I second it.
Okay, all in favor of continuing 424 Pleasant Lake Avenue, indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. Moving on, a notice of intent, 25 Snow Inn Road.
65.
I'm sorry, 65 Snow Inn Road. New pervious 12 by 20 stone patio and a 0 to 50 buffer on top of a coastal bank.
Good evening, everybody. I'm representing Mrs. and Mr. Curtis. My name is Suav Yosef. I'm the owner of R&K Landscape and Irrigation, which operates under the name of Destiny Companies. And this work is pretty simple. I took a couple pictures before I actually came over. I'm just going to pass it to you if you don't mind, please. What we're proposing to do, as you can see on the pictures, is replacing an existing step and existing hydrangea planting bed, which is about 6 feet from the foundation of the property of the house, and removing 6 feet of the existing lawn, which is going to create width, starting from the foundation of the house out 12 feet, continuing 20 feet along the foundation. Removing the existing bed and removing turf area and replacing it with gravel and only gravel and surfacing it with bluestone, 1.5 inch bluestone. Considering what's there, realizing how close it is to the water, we believe that there is no any impact. I've met with Amy several times on the site. I've been working on this project very closely with her, and I've been working on other projects on the banking, on coastal banking area with her in town. I've been following her suggestion on this, and just want to hear your opinion on it. And the owners obviously want to. There's no any patio on the backyard. They just want to be able to have a small table where they can basically dine outside. You all have the plan, right? The patio is basically the dark area.
Thank you. Any questions?
Yeah, I'm looking at the plan. So I see where the 50-foot setback is.
Yes,
So the house is within the 50?
yes, it is.
The water, it doesn't indicate where the water is. I assume it's over on the left side of,
Correct.
okay. Any drainage?
It's gonna be set on sand and then 3/4 inch gravel.
Okay.
There's not gonna be any T-base used or any of that, or stone dust. Basically, what we're gonna do is, I wanna create, the way I wanna design it is, the way it actually is designed is to create self-drainage system, which technically it will replace the turf area, but it will absorb any rainwater that we'll basically have, you know, on the patio by having the joints between the stones 4-inch. And the area between, basically the joints, 4-inch joints, they will be all gravel as well, which will provide, you know, that drainage, 100% drainage. So technically, the only thing you're doing is replacing turf and existing planting bed with, you know, more user-friendly area where you can enjoy the beautiful view of, you know, that's where the house is, and that's what that's why they're buying this house, you know. And we understand also that how, you know, that this is within the 50 feet barrier, coastal banking setback. For that reason, we're proposing, you know, some mitigation, which it's all on the design as well.
The body of water is, Snow Inn Road is on next to what body of water?
Which harbor?
Whichmere.
Yes, yes, it is. It's one of the last houses,
Right,
the
right.
furthest in, yes. The second house in when you,
Like,
Where is the water in relation to this?
and it's over here,
Correct.
in this area here.
This is the front, got it.
Because I noticed you have a ditch witch that you've got 5 hours worth of work on. I assume that would
this
have
is
been.
just moving the material from the front to the back, like, you know, when you propose to do some, you know, work, I mean, we're gonna basically put plywood down. What I'm trying to do is save people's back, so, you know, just move the material from the driveway to the area of work without any impact, just
So there's
working.
no trenching or
No,
anything
no.
like that?
No, nothing like that.
All right, that's fine. I'm,
It's just moving material.
Go ahead,
I have a
Sam.
question.
Yes.
What-
Do we go in
It
order?
says existing walkway to, or for, what is this, for what? Is this some-
I'm just showing this on the plan.
Oh.
That was existing before.
Yeah, but does it go, it's a funny shaped area, what does it,
There was a retaining wall. Can I come close to you?
oh, yes, of course.
So there was a retaining wall over here.
Uh-huh,
It was a landscape tie retaining wall that came out 7 feet and went over. That was existing. I had Amy meet me on the job site.
I see.
She actually sign off on that. What we did was basically we just replaced that wall with stone, replaced the rotted wall, and we just carried the footprint of this.
What is it for? What
It
is
was
it?
it was a walkway and then planting bed over here.
Uh-huh,
What we did, this is their master bedroom, so basically, we got rid of the planting bed here, and this was the walkway, which was like that, wall, holding, this is their door, facing the water, and going out this way.
Did you
So
Okay,
say
so the-
you
so
already
this-
did
It's
it?
been already completed,
this shaded area
But-
is comprised of both
that's existing.
plantings and, oh, I don't know, what is it, brick? What-
This is bluestone right here.
Bluestone, that's
Yes.
bluestone
Yeah.
and plantings.
Yeah.
Okay, and that's,
Is that in these pictures, so we can?
No, I don't have the pictures of that area.
okay.
Just
What-
because it's been already approved, so for that reason,
Oh,
It's
it's
not
already
right, I mean,
approved. It's
yeah.
not in this.
no, it's not.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
just talking about this area right here. That's the
Okay.
area of work. This is, yeah.
This is it
This was
looks,
existing, this is new structure, so.
gotcha. This looks like it's a smaller square foot
I'm not sure.
number than this area here. Do you have any idea?
It's 10 feet out from the building,
Yeah,
by,
Uh.
by 11 feet, I believe, is this site.
okay.
And then this is 8 feet out. It's about 5 feet right here,
Mhm.
so.
That's got nothing to do with it,
Pretty,
because that's
pretty little.
already
That's
done.
in the existing, yeah, that's already.
They're not swapping anything with that. That's done. That's not even
Yeah,
part
I
of
know
this
it's
thing.
done. I know it's there. But the question is, I want to know, can you switch, eliminate that, it's within the 50-foot zone, that you want to put in something else
They're
in the
numbered.
50-foot zone.
It's very tight little area over here. This is like where the level lawn area is, as you can see on the pictures, and that's where they want it.
They want it there, they want
Yeah.
something
Yeah,
else
This
there.
is their bedroom, this is the kitchen, you know what I mean?
Uh-huh, okay, so that's,
Technically, they want to get out and just go to the side over here because they can maximize the space over here, stay tight to the
sure.
house without
Okay,
getting
so they
close to
want
the-
to, they'll maintain this area here, and they're looking also at
Correct.
including this.
So
Okay,
mitigation, what we're proposing is to plant, to bulk
Gotcha.
this area.
okay, all right.
On this picture, can you show where that, you want that patio to be? Which door are we talking about here?
Absolutely. So, let me just pick the best. This is their kitchen right here. They're placing mahogany steps here. So all they want to do is walk down from their kitchen, come to the side. And right here, starting from the corner, 12 feet, and over 20 feet. So that's the area of work, which is shown on the plan.
Okay. So this other bluestone stuff has already been done, right?
Yes, yeah,
So all we're talking about is that one patio
that's correct.
in the 50-foot zone.
Absolutely.
Okay, Charlotte, did you question? Any questions?
And I have no questions.
Bob?
I have a question, not a question so much as a comment. So this is a new structure in the 0 to 50.
That's correct.
And you said Amy thought it was okay?
I don't wanna be speaking on the behalf of Amy, but I've met with her several times on the site, and she did say, her concern was this, you know, she's seen this process, she's seen this, you know, just because, she's like, technically, I gotta agree with you, I would be okay if you have heavy planting. I coordinated this plan with her, by the way. You know, I've met with her a couple of times to coordinate the design of that, and I wanted to make sure, normally when I work with her on establishing bankings and things like that, I want to make sure that I do everything up to her requirements. So I follow up with her several times on the job site. This was the case with this location and this project. So she suggests I would be okay if you have proposed these plans, and I'll be okay with putting the patio right where it is because I don't see any impact.
Okay. So you got, how big is it?
It's 12 feet from out and 20 feet, 12 by 20, 240 square feet.
240, and how much, do you know what the planting, how much area you're planting?
I would say about 60 linear feet by 5 feet.
So 30 feet? 6 by 5?
60,
Oh,
60.
300. Okay. All right, so, okay, I guess my comment is, this is a new structure in the 0 to 50, and you're trying to, we usually do at least 2 to 1, right? If we allow anything at all.
But the homeowners are open to cooperate with this, so you know. I'm open to hear what you guys would suggest and
I'm waiting my turn, I'm always
Yeah,
last.
we'll just,
okay, great. No problem. This is my first time here, so it's been great experience.
well, my comment is, we're not letting anything be new structures in the 0 to 50. And if we do, if there's something we have done, we've expected more than 2 to 1 restitute, you know, whatever the hell you want to call it.
In mitigate, yeah.
Yeah, and this is not.
Well,
Okay.
that's easy to fix, in my opinion.
Well, that's a comment, and then the other gentleman can comment, and then we can talk after that.
Okay.
John, any questions?
No, I don't have a question. Yeah, I do have a question. I do, as a matter of fact. Under most circumstances, we don't put in, and this would be considered a new structure within the 50-foot zone. The only way I could see that it might be an allowable is if it trades for something else, so that you could, in this case, I was asking about the side, but you told me they don't want to lose that outside the bedroom window, that what, this area here. It's lesser square footage than that, but you'd be trading it off and restoring that
That's correct.
to the land within the 50 feet. That's all. Other than that, that's my comment question. I can't see allowing something else. I mean, there are just too many other houses in the neighborhood who might want to do something similar, and we would be in a position of saying, well, gee, we allowed it here, but, somewhere along the line, we've got to stop.
The process.
Yeah, so it's kind of difficult.
But that's why we notify everybody within the 300 feet,
Sure.
and nobody had called to complain about any, to have any objections with that, right?
No.
They wouldn't.
And I appreciate that,
Yeah.
but what you're talking is a microcosm of the whole town. We're talking about all of the inlets
Duplicating
and the
the same issue.
coves and everything in the entire town, not just this area here.
Mhm.
But having said that, okay, I'll pass.
Brad?
I would just agree with both these gentlemen, that it would be a new structure, 0 to 50, so I would think that you would need to request a variance for that, and then propose alternatives or features that would allow us to grant that variance. And one thing would be to, in your plan, show how you would achieve a 2-to-1 mitigation. So you're at 240 disturbance, so you'd want to do these 2-to-1. So more detail to your plan, put that to scale, and then bring up your plans to that amount. And I also think an alternative to trading structures, as John suggested, because I still am not positive how we're gonna view this. We wanna hear from Amy, I think. And so that's what I would suggest, come back with a more detailed plan that lists those features that would allow us to consider a variance.
So the plans that I have listed on this proposal, those are all new plans that we're proposing to do in mitigation.
Right.
Should I just, in my proposal, should I have it done in like the square footage proposed? How many and what will be planted?
Right.
More like in the proposal area that I have as a job planner over here?
Right. Right now, you've got plants, but they're not to scale. There's no calculation of square footage.
Oh, yeah?
So
That's fine.
I'd put that, in the plan.
Okay.
And I would suggest having an alternative option as well. And I don't know if you have anything you can trade, any structures in the 0 to 50 presently that could be traded for the patio. That's really what we'd like to see, I think.
It's a really like a small property. It's very tight and narrow and small, so really they don't have, like if you drive by, you can pretty much see like from the street. It's the front, they got 6-foot path that goes around the house, that is along Snowing Road. And then you get to the backyard through that walkway that is listed on the plan as posted as existing walkway. And then on the back, that's all you got. That's the only area that you would be able to do anything like that, so.
Okay.
Just to that corner where the coastal bank setback is, that's where the driveway ends.
I have a question. Do we take into consideration the fact that this is already domesticized, cultivated, or whatever? This is not wild.
I mean, it's all turf area, it's all man-made.
This is all groomed
Right.
already, and this coastal bank is how tall? 15 feet?
I would say, I don't have the elevation, but if I have to guess, it's about between 8 and 12, I would say.
Between 8 and
8 and
12
12,
feet.
yeah.
So this piece of property is up high,
Right.
Correct.
then flat.
Yeah, it's totally within our purview to consider that and to grant a variance. If you think about the Quasit property we viewed earlier, once you went past that 50, you were into natural habitat. I mean, that was a case where the no disturb intention, to me, kicks in. And where in this case you have, it's a very disturbed, area.
It's
But
already
everything
been
is being
disturbed.
man-made, like, there's no, like, all the planting beds that are existing there, all they have is hostas, a butterfly bush, hydrangeas. I'm proposing to remove those and plant.
Yes. Yep, I think you're doing what needs to be done to have us
Correct.
consider a variance.
Yeah.
I would give us the detail in the plan to show
Yeah, absolutely.
that you would meet what we typically look for for minor structures in the 0 to 50. This is not a small footprint, so I think, you know, come back to us and,
Would you consider 200 square feet? Like, let's say if we do 200 square feet for patio area and, 500 square feet of, planting and mitigation. I just want to be prepared when I come. I want to know what would be acceptable.
I think that's a very good start, and I think that we all want to hear from Amy.
Absolutely.
We did not get Amy's opinion on this because she wasn't able to
Unfortunately,
get
she's not in there.
So, would you like to come back in 2 weeks? Is that,
Absolutely. I think, let's wish the best recovery for Amy, and it would have been much easier if she was here, since she's very familiar with this place, and I will coordinate next week. Hopefully, she's back into work. I'll follow up with her tomorrow with email, and definitely coordinate the planting with her. And let's hope that in 2 weeks she'll be able to be here, and we can revisit that with all the revised,
well, I move that we continue this hearing until 2 weeks from now with the requested modifications to the plan to include the 2-to-1 mitigation.
Okay, we got a motion, need a second?
Second.
Second.
Got a second? All in favor of continuing this 2 weeks, indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
This mitigation would go down the wall, the fence wall?
How much room is there?
Nowhere.
I think it's where he showed it on the,
This,
What is it here? Fencing line,
that's gonna limit what he can do.
it's not a big property. It's down the street from me.
Was it?
Yeah.
So you got both Richmond Harbor and Allen Harbor, who you're familiar with.
Yeah. Said we wanted property in between the two harbors.
Okay. Change in plan, Vincent and Maureen Peroni,
Mrs. Petroni.
06 Gray Neck Road.
Hi, I'm Dave Helmer, the
Thank you for
contractor
waiting.
Blue Wave Construction. Oh, it's my pleasure. David Helmer, Blue Wave Construction. I'm Mr. Petroni's carpenter, builder. And basically what this is, in the narrative, we're requesting a change in plan. We're trying to put a smaller house on what was previously approved. All of this was previously approved for the existing house in the orange area. Mr. Petroni thought after the design had come in, and that was what was originally submitted, we thought it was going to be a little bit too pricey for that neighborhood. So he wanted to reduce the size of the house slightly and remove the garage. So we're looking at actually a smaller footprint. And all of the grading and all of the areas indicated and required on this property that were approved by conservation are essentially staying approximately the same, with a few bushes changing on one side of the house, which we have to move in. There's not going to be a garage on this design. We've put in a proposed future garage with a bedroom above, and the septic system will remain the same size, a 4-bedroom septic. But we're shrinking it to a 3-bedroom house, basically, with no garage. And we're thinking it's a fairly small change in plan, smaller footprint, and nothing else is really changing in essence. And Amy seemed to be amenable to the change. She had no issue with it whatsoever, but it did have to come before the Conservation Board to be approved of the change.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? Ernie?
Looking at the plan, now, so the driveway is changing as well, correct?
It is. It's basically in the same spot. It's got a little bit different cant to it. It's got a little bit different turnout.
At the top of the lot, there's another proposed pervious drive. Is that existing, or is that proposed?
No, that's proposed. That's on the 110 Gray Neck Road, and we're constructing that right now.
So there'd be an easement on this lot for
Yes,
that driveway?
Mr. Petroni owned both pieces of property, and he created an easement to allow that driveway
Okay.
to go on. All that was previously proposed, and it's gone through Conservation, the Board of Health, DEP, and the Environmental Protection Agency, the EPA. It's all been,
For 110?
yes, for 110, it was done as a complete package, 110 and 106. He had to have everything designed and okayed by them to go ahead with his plan, so.
Are there lot coverage issues with that additional easement on the top, do you know?
I don't think so. I don't think so. I know that everything was, according to Mr. Eldridge at Eldridge Engineering, everything was filed, examined, went before the boards, everything was approved. Nothing has changed from that time to this, except for we're putting a smaller house on 106.
Okay, which
That's it.
should ease any issues if there were any, I would assume. That's the only question I had.
There used to be a dilapidated house and a small guest house on that property, and Mr. Petroni he bought this property next door so he could tear them down to improve the neighborhood. He just wanted to put a house that was acceptable to the neighborhood and have it look nice instead of having something dilapidated and accumulating rubbish and everything next door. So he's improving the property is what he's doing.
So some of this property is in the flood zone?
Yes.
In the flood
Floodplain
zone
over on the left there.
is Nantucket Sound? Is Nantucket Sound as the flood zone?
I don't know. I don't think that is. I thought it was the Bass River or whatever. This is right off of 28.
Okay, I saw
106 and
28,
110.
that's why, okay.
Yeah, I don't think it's near the Bass River at all.
Or not the Bass River, but
It was
that,
Change to the Herring River.
the Herring River.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why it ended up in the flood zone, because of the Herring River proximity, which is a couple blocks further west from there.
Charlotte?
I have no questions.
Bob?
Yeah, I'm confused. This drawing here, is that what you want to be eventually?
I thought you had two.
I have two. I'm just trying to figure out.
That was, yes, that's what it's going to be eventually. What this was showing where the old approval was.
The
on
orange is, okay.
And this is what the actually is going in right here without the garage. That's only for the future. If a customer buys that house and wants to build a garage, they'll have to apply for that at a future date, but we penciled it in, proposed future garage.
Okay, so do you know the difference in square footage?
Pardon?
The difference in square footages
Yeah,
of the
the
houses?
new house is gonna be approximately 200 square feet smaller than the old house, with no garage. So it's actually shrinking on the property.
And you're gonna put this driveway in just for parking over here?
That's
waiting for the
correct,
garage?
yeah. The driveway's almost in the same place, it just has to reposition a little bit.
Yeah.
But it won't affect anything that's already been planned in the conservation plan as proposed earlier.
Okay, so further away. Okay, thank you.
John?
I shouldn't be asking this because it has nothing to do with this, but just curious, where he's constructing the two properties?
Uh-huh.
Why is the driveway an easement on his side if he intends to sell, or he thinks he could sell the other property? Why does it?
An easement, it was easier to get an easement than to actually redesign both properties and condense them. The way it was originally laid out, the line was funky, and he built a garage behind 110. And to get to that garage, he needed to extend his driveway. Well, he needed to crowd over into that next property, so basically he gave himself an easement. And that was the easiest way to go, rather than reconstructing the two properties as two separate properties. According to the attorneys, I mean, that was what it was.
His money, whatever he wants to do.
And he's got lots of it. But he's a very nice man. He's a real. He employs 500 plumbers. He's the second largest plumbing contractor in Massachusetts. They're out of Canton, but they do all commercial HVAC. Older gentleman, but just nicest guy in the world.
Ed?
No question, just a comment. This one's, it's just hard to imagine this is jurisdictional to us, where this property is located. When I first heard it, I couldn't believe it, but it is the rezoning of flood concerns based on
Yeah, with the heights,
calculations.
the levels, yes.
Sea level rise. So this is times are changing.
They never would have gotten into this if it had been the year before, but then they changed that and it went up 5 feet or whatever, and then all of a sudden it all changed.
It's quite a distance from the Herring River.
It really is. It was a surprise to him.
Very low lands in through there.
I'd like to move that we accept the change of plans for the Petroni property on 106 Great Neck Road as presented.
Second.
A second from Bob. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? No. Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I
Okay, good.
appreciate your time this evening.
Thank you.
Town of Harwich, John Rendon, Harbor Master, reconstruction of existing municipal marina.
Have a good evening.
All right, thanks.
Thank you.
Too bad he didn't come tonight.
Yeah, we could have got two things in once.
Yeah.
This is order of conditions.
Yeah, an order of conditions, order of conditions.
I didn't have that in our package.
Oh, this,
I
you
did.
didn't?
No.
You just- I didn't.
Maybe I did.
It is in the package, it's the third down.
Maybe I buried it.
There are non-special conditions.
Everything looks good to me. I can't really remember if there's anything missing. We just depend on Amy for these type of things.
Yeah, prior to that, I see the line of marsh was taken.
I still have trouble with the language of number 14, the way this is worded, but I'll talk to Amy about that. She was gonna look into that, because it just seems flipped. If unforeseen problems occur, then we're not gonna know about them until the developer tells us, and then we would notify the developer of the corrective action to be taken.
You would think the onus would be on the developer or the proponent to let us know.
Yeah, I mean, it just doesn't make sense to me the way that's worded, but like I say, it's one of those things that's been that way for years according to Amy, so I'll talk with her and see if she wants to change that going forward.
Is there a hurry on this? When do they want to do this construction? It was approved, the town approved it.
They need to now get Army Corps permitting, I believe, in state DP. So this one was their first environmental permit. My guess is they want to line this one up and then proceed to get the other ones.
Okay, so there is a push.
Why, you got a concern, you want to hold it up?
No, just wondering whether it could be held till Amy looks at it carefully.
Oh, she wrote it,
She sent it to us in email.
yeah.
We talked about moving shellfish, but I don't believe that was a special condition. That was something where the shellfish officer just go out there and move stuff around for the project. And I'm fine with that.
That number 14 does sound funny, though. Yeah, how are we notifying the developer?
Well, how do we even know if a problem occurs
If he
during
didn't tell
construction?
us,
Yeah,
yes.
exactly, yeah.
That might be something that has to be worked out as a general condition, you know, because it might be just in every one of these.
Yeah, I think it's a standard.
It's a standard, so we
Yeah,
have to, like,
she said it's been that way for years, so.
right, so we probably have to have a special, you know, discussion to change it as
Yeah.
opposed to changing it for this one.
So somebody would have to tell us, and then we'd have to do something about it, right? It would-
But you're suggesting to change that language, we'd need to have a formal,
If it's a standard condition, I think we would have to have some discussion with it. Because it's the town, I'm comfortable, you know, letting it go on this one, because I think it's probably,
yeah,
we can work with the town,
yeah.
so. But if you really want to wait, I don't see a problem either, so it's up to you.
Check with Amy on that.
Does that mean you want to hold it?
I'm comfortable letting it go, I mean, from.
Yeah, I mean, if we
for
check with
this
Amy, it means we
particular
can't
one,
pass it today.
Yeah, and then just going forward, we can
Yeah.
put that as an agenda item or whatever we need to do.
Also, this will get a lot of state and federal scrutiny.
Yes.
So if we miss something,
We'll know in a hurry.
Afterwards,
yeah,
right.
we'll go back. What do you think, Carolyn? Do you want to go forward with it?
Okay,
That's fine with me.
I make a
If
motion to
that's
accept it.
standard- If that's standard wording,
I think it is.
then
I make a motion to accept it.
Second?
A second, all in favor of accepting the Harwich Harbor Master order of conditions indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? No. Motion carries.
Okay.
What we could do is just, roll up our sleeves and review all these general conditions and just see how we feel about them.
Yeah.
Sometimes these things just go on for year after year because no one changes them.
We've changed at least 5 of them since I've been on the board.
Right,
The same thing, this doesn't make any sense.
right, so we can do that anytime we want.
Yeah.
More than once?
More than one.
You can do them till you
Just one
have to.
signature?
Walter, I don't have any minutes. They make it in the packet?
Nope, no
I don't have
minutes.
minutes either. Oh,
And we don't have anything on 93
Marie wants to
Riverside
speak to you.
Drive.
Marie wants to speak to you.
So, do we have a motion to adjourn?
Well,
Not yet.
Walter,
Yes.
I missed whether we had a motion on 93 Riverside Road.
No, we don't have anything on that.
We don't, so we
No.
just,
Okay, so that's I'm gonna talk to Jen tomorrow to see if she has something, and then try and get Amy and see if we can have these people walk in and sign it.
That's the
So
plan.
because the people, I hate to screw up their finances, because,
I am out of town though, so I cannot sign it.
can I sign for you?
What?
Can I sign for you?
Yes. Do you need a
Proxy.
document?
I have witnesses, it's on camera.
I can give you my power of attorney.
Okay.
You just give me your social security number, I can take care of the rest.
Need a motion to adjourn.
Probably already have
We
it.
adjourn?
So moved, he moved.
Okay, we're
I'll second.
adjourned.
I second.
We're adjourned.
Turn off the camera.
Fred, that was a good article about